What is that place called?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Did I do the worst?
I have zero clue where this is. Oh my god.
I think it's Frosty Flights. I don't know if that's the actual name of it.
I don't know where it's from.
I'm gonna have to guess Lonely Labs because of the crates.
Oh, I'm so stupid. It's Lonely Labs.
Right around Lonely Labs, I believe.
Lonely Labs. Wow.
That's what I'm saying. 1 point. Boom.
So right off the bat, I see like a garage area kind of.
I believe that this is in Anvil Square in the garage right beside the Reba van.
No clue. Like what?
Oh, this is easy.
Anvil Square.
This has to be Anvil. Oh my god, this is Anvil.
I think this might be Anvil. Anvil Square.
It's huge. It's looking good. It's looking good.
Let's go.
Oh my god. I'm actually crazy for that. What? How did I know that? Alright, this could be anywhere. Like,
I have no idea. I don't know.
This is the toughest one, I think.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the Citadel.
It's got to be Breakwater Bay.
this has to be Breakwater Bay. Like, that's just a guess. Like, 'cause it's like, it looks like it's a dock. How did I know that? That's a crazy guess.
Oh my god. How am I right?
Oh, I'm gonna sound really bad if I get this wrong now. I believe this is the top side of Faulty Splits.
Citadel, it's the houses under it. I landed here. Do not play with me.
The Citadel.
I'm just gonna go Anvil again, because like that's the only other spot I know that has houses like this.
How am I feeling? I just got bamboozled. That is, I swear, that is those are the same objects in what I'm talking about. I swear. That's crazy. You guys bamboozled me. That's crazy.
Alright, so right off the bat, I see fences and a lot of trees. So that's just Slappy Shores.
I know what place this is. What's the name of it? It's called Slabby Shores.
That Frenzy Fields has a lot of houses that have like that similar siding on it. So I want to say Frenzy Fields.
I think it's Slappy Shores. Slappy Shores. I think I seen this at Slappy Shores yesterday when I was playing.
It's not that bad. It's like pretty easy.
I think I'm gonna definitely be like top 3 on other people. Like, there's no way that everybody gets 4 out of 5. That was kind of tough.
Did I do the worst?
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Welcome back to more of the best Fortnite NA East has to offer. Today, it's time to settle it. Who goes on to play Surge Week, and who's going to skip directly through to the Grand Finals? After a bumpy Week 2, Hamster and Thatch are back in the lobby, trying to secure those last bits of series points to earn a well-deserved break and skip right through to the Grand Finals. Macwood and Threats, currently on the edge of that top 40, are also to find competing tonight. The long-term duo is here to prove themselves to the rest of NA East and grab a spot in the Grand Finals where they belong. Seek and Cooper wouldn't mind a great placement today, as they're currently finding themselves outside of the top 40 mark. However, with a decent placement today, things can quickly take a turn for the better and give them a ticket for the Grand Finals. So, buckle up everyone, because tonight, teams are giving it their all for the last NA East FNCS Weekly Finals.
Oh man, I've been thinking about you all week. I've been thinking, man, I can't wait to hang out with y'all. To talk about Fortnite, to watch Fortnite, to just bask in the glow that is all things FNCS. And now here we are, finally back together once again. It is great to be back with you guys, NA East. Welcome to the show. Now we have a ton to talk about. This is week number 3, so let's get right into it. We have our analyst standing by. We got Jenny Smiles and, of course, the best taco. There they are, friends. Welcome to FNCS. This is week number 3 of major number 1. This is that time. Some of these duos, they're sitting comfortable, right? They're thinking, Grand Finals will be there. Some duos are thinking, today's the day. We got to make that spot. Others are thinking, if we don't do well, we may not even make it to Surge Week. How do you guys feel coming into week number 3 yourselves?
It really is just so much excitement brimming in place right now, Zeke, because of the fact that we know there are so many capable duos that I think can technically try to avoid that Surge Week instance.
Right.
But as far as the guys who have already made it there, I'm excited to see how they mix it up for today.
That is very true. Like, the mixing it up is going to take place when they're like, what placement do I have to get in order to secure my spot, either for Surge Week or even just for finals in general?
Much to discuss. So
Many things.
Why don't we start with the series point leaderboard, and we'll do that together. So in case you guys are just tuning in, we've been playing for, this will be 3 weeks, and we're looking to compete and find ourselves at the top of this leaderboard, the series point leaderboard. The top 40 will move straight to Grand Finals, while the next set of players will then play in Surge Week, hoping to make it to Grand Finals as well. I'm not even super worried about the top, but we have to highlight them. Peterbot, Ruga, of course, a phenomenal duo. Probably front runners, question mark?
I mean, at this point, with 1475 series points, it's hard to argue against that, Zeke. But who I want to look at are some of those duos that we have actually competing for the first finals. I mean, Day and Sprite, they're one that immediately comes to mind. This is their first week competing, and they essentially need a 7th place finish in order to just even make it into the Surge Week, Jenny.
Yeah, it's honestly incredible what they've been able to do so far, but they're going to have to step it up, like you said, just a little bit, because they're on the cusp and they're there, and they do have a potential to get in. Like, I want to see them get in. I'm going to keep my eyes out on them too.
Yeah, for sure. 40th is that cutoff. So remember, some duos, they're already done. That's it. They're either locked out or they're going to Surge Week. Others are saying, I just have to be this tall to ride and go straight to Grand Finals. Of course, there's some players that we do want to focus on, right? Some duos we're going to be seeing compete today. What we want to do is highlight 2 separate duos for you. The first, they're doing well. Things are looking great for them. The second set of duos, they need to perform well if they're hoping to make it to that next stage. We want to begin with Trashy and Pump, a duo that, I mean, they've just been putting on a show for us.
They absolutely have, Z. Yeah, Trashy and Pump have been performing so well in these last 2 quals. They placed top 5. Crazy good. And they played week 1 and week 2. They placed 15th week 1. Going into week 2, they're stepping their game even more, having that 3rd place. That's crazy. You just see them continue to grow and get so much better.
Yeah, and kind of to build on that, in week number 1, I think part of the reason why they had that 15th place finish, they were actually contested at their drop spot. But in week 2, we saw them, again, Jenny, step it up, find that 3rd place finish, but they were uncon. And so here again today, uncontested in week number 3, I wouldn't be surprised to see them with another top 5 finish.
I mean, that's what they want to be, right? If they're looking good, they just want to cement that place, right? They don't want any stress. We'll just go right to Grand Finals. We'll see y'all there, of course. That's what the prize money, X Champions, all of it, of course, to play for. Let's highlight another duo, Walkers and Vert. If you guys have been keeping up with all the action the first 2 weeks, you've already seen them, but we want to highlight them, right? Because they're a duo we're talking about.
And it's honestly absurd to think that this is a duo that is so high up in the series points leaderboards to begin with, because their drop spot, the Citadel, has actually had 0 total victory royales. So the fact that they're still managing to find these top-end placements inside of the leaderboards, that's just a testament to how well this duo functions together in securing placements and eliminations in general.
They have been very good about eyeing those eliminations and going for them, especially, too, you can see in instances where Walker has to be a solo. The way he plays that out so incredibly well is just mind-boggling, and I would love to see another performance like that from him.
I mean, look, I'm all for that, right? Week number 3, let's bring the action, let's bring the heat, let's bring ourselves up those series point leaderboard, right? Okay, so we talked about the first 2 duos that are doing well. We want to highlight 2 duos that really need to kind of, like I said, bring the heat into today's competition. What's the first one?
Yeah, Miro and Ed is who we are highlighting here. Miro and Ed, they've been performing pretty well, and again, like, they're definitely probably going to be making finals, we'll see, but they do have things that they can work on, that is for sure. We have, listen, Ed has not yet secured an FNCS title, and we have Miro on the other hand has 5. So he's like, look, I have a teammate and a duo that has, I'm trying to make it there with his knowledge mixing with his skill. I think they could definitely have that chance.
But look, Dig Maroney, he's no jabroni, and the fact that this duo missed out on week number 2 was a rather unfortunate circumstance, but we're seeing them bring the heat. Their day 1 of quals for this week specifically, not the best, but we saw them really step it up in day number 2. Miro specifically, we saw a lot of that Miro of old, that solo clutch aspect, and if they can just continue that here today, Jenny, I think they're going to be looking pretty solid for grand finals.
A last duo with the name that I'm going to try to say without laughing, of course, is Duke and Big Bobby, they laughed first. It wasn't me.
You can't say anything about the jabroni thing then.
I said no shot. She said that, but let's take a look at this duo. So remember, these are duos that we want to see perform well, and they kind of have to, right?
No, they absolutely have to. Like you just said, next week is Surge Week. Again, they're going to have to put a performance on. You have Dukes again. This is similar to the last duo we just talked about. He has 2 FNCS titles, and again, his duo does not. So that pressure to make sure, like, I'm headed there, I want to get that, that's going to have an extra impact on how he plays and performs. And I think, again, too, having just that knowledge and having a teammate that has such a valuable amount of skills, because, again, you have Big Bob has almost made it for an FNCS title, but, again, has come up short, unfortunately. But still, they have so much potential, don't they, Taco?
Of course, and despite the fact that this is a new duo for Chapter 4, at the same time, I think that they can still make a lot happen with their North drop spot.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I know we talk about Surge Week as being the scary thing. It's really not that scary, and we'll kind of talk about that as we head over here. Surge Week, for some players, they actually come alive, right? Because that is an opportunity where they have to either come top 5 at the end of the games or get a victory royale. And, you know, for some duos, they really want to do that, don't they, Jenny?
Yeah, oh my gosh. This duo specifically, Clarity G and Casker, have been performing so consistent, so well. I mean, genuinely, like, coming into this, I wasn't really having my eye on them, but they've been, like, showing up and saying, listen, I'm one of 3 teams that have put at least 10 points on the board every single game. And I think that's so important. Again, just speaking about consistency, because consistency truly is key. They have great placement. They continue doing what they're doing. We're going to definitely see them have so much success.
And building onto that, Jenny, we see Clarity G and Casker, I think, as that dark horse element, because in week number 2, on top of the stat that you just listed, they also had the highest average placement in general for NA East for week number 2. So I think that this is really just a duo that continues to basically be able to work their way up a leaderboard.
Yeah, that is a good point, because, too, I want to point out Clarity G popping off with creating a brand new record out here with 13 eliminations in one single game. That's across all regions. So we'll see if they continue to have crazy games like that. I'm looking forward to that. I want to see that type of gameplay coming through.
And what's so awesome about seeing these individual pop-offs, it's because this duo, once upon a time ago, they split up. In Chapter 3, we actually saw them with different duo partners. They didn't really have as much success, but ever since they reunited here in Chapter 4, we've really seen a lot of reminiscent gameplay from them that's kind of like what we saw of them when they had that top-end 7th place finish over in Grand Royale.
You're so right. I love it. That, honestly, again, like I said, I'm keeping my eye out on this team because they're performing very well, and I think a lot of teams could take some advice from them.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we got something really special for you guys We actually highlighted this duo at the very beginning, Trashy and Pump, but we have one of the members standing by for an interview. Trashy, how's it going? First off, you look incredible. How are you feeling coming into today's games?
I'm feeling amazing. I'm really proud and of my duo Pump, and I think we're gonna dominate.
Yeah, that is super awesome. Man, I just gotta ask, how are you guys finding so much success? It feels like you guys are just doing so well. So, you know, what do you attribute to that success factor?
I definitely attribute it to my coach Chocoladin. He's helped us prepare a lot, and he's amazing.
Yeah, okay, so Trashy, how would you explain the dynamic between you and your teammate?
Pump is more of a fragger, and I'm the IGL, and he just eliminates people, and I look to rotate.
Well, you're talking about eliminations from Pump, but is it fair to say that we can maybe expect to see you guys go for that 13 elims individual record today?
We'll see. We'll see if we can drop the 14 here. Pump's pretty crazy.
I want to see that.
I'd
That'd
be
be
down.
exciting.
Yeah, so what are your expectations for you and your duo partner, of course, kind of heading into grand finals? Like, what are you guys looking forward to, or maybe even hoping to grow, you know, before that time?
We just want to prepare to dominate the lobby and try to do the best that we can.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
What's something that, like, I just want to know this because, again, being in your position and being in a lobby with, like, such insane players, what's going through your head as far as, like, I need to focus on this? Like, what is your main focus going to these games?
The main thing I do is try to not put other players on a pedestal, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and there's no point to be getting nervous or anything like that. So,
Yeah, my gosh. Well, Trashy, we hope you have very best of luck. Where can the fans find you? Because I know after today, they're going to be looking for you.
I'm live on Twitch and on Twitter, TrashyFN_. You can just look it up, and that's me.
All right, man. Well, hey, best of luck. We'll see you in just a minute for these games, and thank you so much for your time. Man, absolutely excited to see, just, again, highlighting players in the community, right? Coming through, want to do well. We hope to see them in grand finals. Now, of course, it's not just us that are here to talk about all the things FNCS. We've got two casters who will be calling all of the action. It's Jacob PR and Levin2K.
My friends, my pals, my amigos, how you doing?
There, you know, I'm
Welcome.
doing...
I missed you guys.
I was
What is here with
doing...
him?
Okay. All right, so anyway, so Taco doesn't exist. Anyway, how's it going? How's it going, guys? Welcome to week number 3. How you guys feeling coming in? This is a pretty big week for a lot of duos.
Yes, it's you know, that crunch time of the season. It's the part where, you know, you start to really look at the teams and you go, look, you weren't putting in the right amount of work and you're suffering as a result of it. Of course, we're getting closer to surgery, closer to finals, so a very exciting time.
Yeah, with so many different implications coming at the aftermath of the day. I feel like Fortnite tweeted out with me and him high five the other week. That's how I feel right now, jumping out of my shoes to get this one started.
10-foot vertical that we all know was 100%
I saw it.
Facts.
I saw it. How do you guys feel about like the amount of pressure on a lot of these duos? Some duos, again, we kind of talked about it, they're good. Others are thinking, if I don't do well today, that's it. FNCS is done, and I have to look forward to major number 2.
I don't want to hear about pressure, man. I really don't want to hear about pressure. You're at the top level of Fortnite. You can't be thinking about pressure. You've been doing this all season. You've been practicing. What's the pressure? Perform.
Pressure does one of two things.
I like it.
It either pressurizes and makes coal that we can make a barbecue after this, which I'm down for, or it turns somebody into diamonds. And I think after today, somebody's going to shine bright in the grand finals.
I mean, Jenny's already there. Look at the shoes.
Ooh, yes.
Are you guys, anything you're looking forward to coming into today?
I'm looking for people to break elimination records, because that's apparently what
That's what I'm
NAs like to
saying.
do every
be
single
great.
week, right? So I hope another record today, hopefully.
I'm looking at anybody that's on the outside of that bubble to really take control of their own destiny at the end of the day, because that's what this is all about. Bypassing Surge Week, because I think all of us have seen those moments where it comes down to something like Surge Week, and I don't think any of these players want to go through that stress.
That's right, man. Big week here, week number 3. It is that time, though. We have games ready. This is it. For these duos, we need them to rise. So strap in, because we've got 6 crazy games. Let's do it. This is the FNCS.
6 crazy games that I am ready for. This is the last chance for these teams to qualify directly to grand finals. Have that shot in Surge Week or have to watch it with the rest of us.
Yeah, you have to step up with your best today. Make every play like it's on purpose. You cannot afford to come into today without, you know, being on your best game. It is the time to make it happen.
Yeah, and honestly, with all that practice, all these moments that they've gone through and been tested week after week, it really goes to show that the pressure I was talking about really stands true. For some of these teams, they're going to have to shine bright like a diamond.
Yeah, and a lot of them have that capability. Of course, we have a bunch of players in the lobby who have played across all 3 weeks in these sessions, and a bunch of new ones, and we're going to see how they fit into the puzzle. Game number 1 begins now. The players are ready.
And to talk about that puzzle, you can't just be jamming pieces in there like I do at home, trying to create a picture that doesn't necessarily look like the box at the end of the day. These players are going to have to be precise in what they do, and they have to realize this is going to be a marathon of 6 games. This isn't a race. Consistency is going to be key for everyone today.
And of course, part of consistency is getting the early bit of the game sorted out. And of course, here we have Nick and Nix, who have been an ever-present part of these games. We'll follow their story throughout the day. For Scoped and Visuals, they are no stranger to being contested off spawn, and they've been successful at times and unsuccessful at others. And here against Hide and Seek, they're gonna have to look for a quick victory. A shotgun will go a long way in making this fight favorable. There is more to it than that. You got to connect with it.
Yep, Scope just trying to loot up as fast as possible. Knows he doesn't necessarily have the timing to save the splashes. His opponent was right across from him, staring down into each other's eyes, figuring out what this next move is going to be. You can see Visuals slowly but surely creeping up right behind Scope. They know strength in numbers in a situation like this is going to be huge, and with Visuals and Scope really not liking the lay of the land for now, they are going to try and disengage, try to beat Cooper and Seek to the loop, but it looks like they're going to be the first ones to rotate, but that's going to come at a price. Seek gets dropped down to very little HP and shields. He's going to have to wait for Cooper to buy some time so they can regenerate and restabilize themselves.
Yeah, I said I wanted to see people be on point from game 1. It certainly looks like Visuals and Scope are that right now. They have given a bit of space and time, but again, pushing in Visuals. He's hungry, he's aggressive, he wants to get in and finish up the job, and it might just cost him. Scoped is there to clean up. But again, the ever-present story in Fortnite is third parties getting involved in fights like these. You can see Braids looking to move in and potentially third party that.
Yeah, that would have been a perfect opportunity for them to pick up some early eliminations, some early points, and this is something we kind of looked at, and Bylox is already in a 1v1, so you can already see the south side of Slappy Shores getting busy. If you look at your mini-map, that's Acorn, that's Cold, they're creeping inch by inch closer to this one to try to take advantage, and honestly, they've already qualified. They're just trying to push everybody out of their POI.
You know Acorn and Cold like to land on the south side, and so for them, today is an opportunity to push both of these teams out. Make sure that neither of them want anything to do with the south side of Slappy. Make it as awkward and uncomfortable for them as possible. And so I'm sure we'll see them almost play like their counterparts, Peterbot and Booger, today when it comes to how they land at that spot. How many times we're going to watch Anvil fights, Jacob, across these weeks, right? These Anvil fights have been so consistent. Clicks and Donny, of course, fan favorites, not necessarily having the level of performances they would have wanted to have. And part of that is because of how contested this POI is and how difficult it can be to make it out of here every single game.
Yeah, and I think this is a switch up from last week at the very minimum of it being just 2 teams, it just being Nosh and Nut over here towards Anvil. This time there's a third team, Scolds and Woozy, entering into the mix, and that makes it much harder to really play the way you want to play. You're forced to kind of crouch down, play inside of these natural terrains, the natural buildings while you're farming up, and then you also have to make the decision, am I going to continue to farm up? Because that gives away your position altogether. Going down just a little bit though, everyone trying to take their angles. Donnie getting spotted out by Scolds at the last moment. Shot's gonna come through. Click sees that as a green light. He's trying to take advantage of the numbers while they have them on their side, but taking a little bit too long. Woozy's gonna get there just in the nick of time. The turnaround, the switch up. Click's trying to take advantage, falling down below, trying to finish off that elimination, but that was a sacrifice. They're able to secure the high ground for now.
Next there, you saw how hungry he was. He was going towards his primal instincts there, right? Hungry, searching, wasn't able to find it. The opportunity is not completely gone. That player is still just beneath him. We're giving them some time to recoup. You'd still like to think that these guys are favorites to win this one out. There, they found him.
Oh, this is not good.
Nowhere to really run now for him. Yeah, that's going to be the end. Woozy down.
And he's out altogether. That's just one of those rough ones. You get stuck with the natural terrain. It's hard to break through. You're kind of stuck playing defensive through and through as Chimp and Spade. And now on the offensive against Kicks and Rexo. Spade going high above, taking that little bit of advantage while Chimp continues to hold the angles, put the pressure on, but he gets tagged up just a little bit. Luckily for him, he does have the resources to regain the shield that he just lost. He just needs the time given to him by Spade, continuing that pressure that he has from above.
Rexo and Kicks, of course, the one sort of just turtled up here. They actually have a decent amount of mats, at least from what it looks like with Rexo. Seems he's going to split some there, and so they have the means to fight this one out and turn it into a build fight, but you see, they just want to slow things down, control the tempo of the fight a bit. They don't want to get too big for their boots, want to force Spade and Chimp to make a play and try to catch them out in that act, and maybe, just maybe doing so there, and Spade was trying to flee the situation, getting called out there a bit.
Yep, it looks like they're just trying to disengage, take the little damage that they have, continue going on towards the north side. There's not too many teams that are contesting and holding that low ground that is on that southern portion of the map, so getting a surge is not going to be the easiest thing in the world, and you can see the replay of Acorn and Cold and what we kind of saw early on. It was only a matter of time before they continued to put the pressure on everybody else towards Slappy Shores.
Yeah, in this game, they only picked up the one. I'm sure next game, they'll hope they can pick up some more. But again, we're going to see them continue to push down into that south side. Because if either of those two teams land in there, able to make their way to finals, that's going to be a problem for them. They do not want that at any cost. Mega Injustice in the midst of a fight here on the outskirts of Faulty Splits. How many times do you see fights in this general area? It was such a strong area of the map, so much loot in this vicinity. So many players looking to fight for it.
Even ones in the distance being that third party, Degen and Muzz, trying to have a much better performance here today. We know how dangerous they can be once they make it to the mid, to even the end game as a duo. Just getting there is going to be one of the tricky things.
Yeah, these are two incredibly successful players in their own right. Two very much established names in the region, but things just not able to click for them in the previous weeks. Of course, having problems being contested off spawn at times. The key thing for that team is when they're not contested and they get the chance to play games out, they will impress. A lot of the times you'll see them in that top 10 deep into games, and hopefully to see that today.
Bryce and Chubbs probably hoping for that same thing. Much better performance. A lot of these teams that haven't necessarily clinched their spot directly into the grand finals, they have so much to play for in this last and final week. And that's what makes it such an interesting, compelling opportunity for a lot of these teams to either qualify, get their POI, chase everybody out, or even try to hold their position on those leaderboards for some. Macwood and Threat's going to be one of them. It's about holding on to that top 40 bubble. Freeze and Keys going to be one of those teams as well. As Yamzu and Rise off spawn, we know what they can do. One of the first times right out of the gates, we're going to be able to see them in a box-to-box against Clix and Donnie, who escaped out of that madness that was Anvil Square early on.
Yeah, and Clix and Yamzu and Rise, no strangers to each other, competing in many tournaments with each other throughout the different weeks at times. But in this case, they're going to be enemies. They can't be friends. They can't be civil. And if you know Rise, you know he won't want to be waiting for Clix to make a mistake.
He sees both of them. That's where he's biding his time, picking and choosing. But Clix only having 25 shield to his name. Donnie around the same. This is a moment. If they just can kind of put some damage, realize that they're not heating, that they could take advantage of as Yamzu tries to disengage. Clix onto the hill, and for Clix and Donnie, they might be looking at this as a chance to get a refresh, a much-needed siphon, but the shots coming in from the distance, staggering them out, making them rethink what they want to do here.
And that's part of the problem sometimes with these fights, right? Very central in the map, you're going to have a bunch of different people all around you. 360 degrees of range where you have to worry about who is looking at your fight, who is looking to capitalize. And so I think this one's just going to continue to be a slow burner.
And with this one slowing down just a little bit, there's a lot of action going down across the map. And we got Mini Miner to tell us some of the stuff that went down.
Thank you, Jacob. Now, truth be told, Cold is collecting some gold. He's actually got into these buildings and breaking all of the furniture that it is inside. Of course, it gives you some gold. There's so much gold that you can find inside of these houses. And why is that valuable? Of course, now the rerolls are 200 gold each. It allows him to reroll and collect as many augments that he likes, of course, or 4 in total, of course. But, you know, his augment that he wants to choose, he can actually now reroll for that. And, of course, he picks up a hammer here, too. So they're able to continue throughout the match, and hopefully we'll find some success for them.
Well, thank you, Mini Man. I wonder what Cold is going to do with all that gold, because you know with Cold, when he gets a gold, the gold is gold and cold, and that's messed up.
To me, I'm just thinking about how they're doing it again. Acorn and Cold, from the Falcon Scout weeks prior to collecting gold and really playing into the meta each and every week. And those are the little intangibles that you can't really teach a duo. That's something they watch over time and then they try to incorporate into the game plan. But Acorn and Cold, they're trendsetters.
Speaking of setting trends, Clarity and Casca, one of the most exhilarating duos to watch in last week's competition here in Qualifier 3. I certainly hope they can start to match that level and put on a show for us. Of course, Clarity going absolutely ballistic, breaking single game elimination records. Can he break his own record today, I think? That will be the question.
Definitely worth a try for them. It's, for some people, when you clinch your spot in that finals, it's all about practice. It's all about really testing your limits, seeing how far you can go in a lot of different situations. And Clix and Donnie, they got out of one, back to Anvil Square to try to retrace their steps, find some of the scraps that they might have left behind, and they're looking a bit healthier here in this situation. And it's on the other side is Polo and Shone, who are playing defensive as can be, and those third-party shots coming in, slowing down Clix and Donnie just enough for really them to put themselves 10 toes down.
Yeah, if you look at what Clix has to work with by way of bills, not much at all, right? And so this is a team that desperately needs something, some sort of a lifeline. They are above on Surge, which is going to be good. But when it comes to their loadouts, when it comes to their loot, this is not what you'd expect for a team at this stage in the game. They all want to have way, way more. You see them just sort of scavenging and trying to farm anything they can to get their mats up. But a very difficult start to this tournament so far today for Clix and Donnie. This is a hill they're going to have to climb.
But Clix is one of those players progressively getting better each and every season, along with Donnie, to where you saw them. They try to go out and scavenge for different loot. Back to where they began, though, Degen and Muzz, they setting themselves up right. We talked about them up on Surge. All they have to do is focus on their blueprint. The way they got to here in the finals in the first place is Acro and Danny end up in another box-to-box fight, but 226 below the damage threshold means they don't really have a choice. They have to engage in this altercation. Otherwise, it's going to be too late as Storm Surge begins to tick in on these players in a few moments.
Yeah, this is going to call for desperate measures, and that is close range, box to box. Battling, shotguns are going to be flying about. You can see, I could just sort of trying to move in from a different angle. The problem here for Blue is that he has to be patient, can't afford to overstep. He knows that these guys are down on Surge, so he knows he holds sort of advantage, right, in terms of timing. And that plays into their favor. Can they catch them out, catch them in their desperation?
Really using every tool in their arsenal, from the Big Bush Bomb to the Excalibur Rifle, to try to catch their opponents off guard. Danny going right back in, but he goes in by himself, and that cost him so much. Sinks is there by himself, but he gets chopped down low to the low ground, separated from Blue. That could be the moment, but it's not going to be taken advantage of. They finish off that fight and keep things going from one side of the map to the other, though. Polarized and Users are in another exchange, down on Surge. Them too, forced with their backs up against the wall. Not in a position that they want to be in, but you have to go with the flow at this stage of the game as continues to try to put that pressure in, knocking down builds, trying to get to the box, using the hammer, and still minds up getting a good shot over the top, but sometimes enough is enough as he continues to try to use every single tool in his tool belt, but he's taking so much damage from all over the map.
Yeah, Polarized was trying to get in there, and it was looking so good. But unfortunately, the lobby will punish him. That's going to be the end of his run, and it looks like his teammate is going to follow very shortly. The problem is, there are more than just one team here, and when Trashy and Pump come rolling through, that makes everything that much harder. Users finally gets taken out. He's going to join Polarized. But they're going to continue the fight, continue the roll, and they are just strolling through these fields like nothing. A big shot from Trashy there.
Yeah, he's taken out Shadow. 1v2 situation here, and I say that very loosely. You can see in the minimap there's so many teams staggered around this position, trying to take advantage of somebody getting caught off guard. This would have been a perfect opportunity to just do that, and that's exactly what Trashy and Pump did.
I love the way they play that there. Both just so in sync together.
Uh-oh.
They reap the rewards. Canada and Ages, another one of our bigger name teams, a team that in week one, certainly we're getting all the plaudits. A bit more quiet in week 2, and we'll see what they have to offer here in week 3. But you can already see Canada with devious intentions. He was looking up there in terms of what he could grab. Of course, their positioning here in the zone, very much in the center of third zone, as you expect them to pull that next one.
From one great team I love to watch to another, Burton Walkers, progressively getting better each and every week. The only team playing today to place top 10 in week 1 and week 2, securing their spot in the FNCS Major 1 Grand Finals. For them, just like some of these other teams, it's about really proving yourself and getting that extra bit of practice, as Clicks and Donnie are still on a roll. But next up, it's Macwood and Canada. We're talking about teams that need a big game. They're inside of the bubble that need a big day.
Yeah, look, when we tuned into Clicks and Donnie earlier, right, they were way above on Surge and they were scuffed with loot. Now they're down on Surge and still scuffed with their loot. And so things have gone from bad to worse for this team. But the good thing is that they are top players. 2 of the best shots in the lobby, and you're seeing that pay off here. A big shot from Clicks, but he has to be careful. And he wasn't careful enough. Donnie now has a tough task on his hand. That is a problem. Sometimes you get tunnel visioned on a fight and somebody comes attacking and knocking on your door from a different side. You aren't aware. Good thing is he'll be able to get the revive off, you think. He just holds on for a couple more seconds. Will he stick it? Will he stick it? Will he get it? He will. Polo, not swift enough to stop that.
Talk about threading the needle right there for Clicks and Donnie to be able to get that res back up and back up into tip-top shape, even though they don't have a ton of loot. They're better off than they were just moments ago. Splashes, big pots, shockwave hammer, plenty for them to use to get themselves at least to the next stage in the game. Even 105 above the Storm Surge threshold, as Polo is going to be sitting right above him, thinking about what can I do now? What play am I going to make? As Caskers and Clarity, we kind of coined them the dark horse in here. Some people might not have expected them to have that pop-off performance, but that's what you call a dark horse. No one expects them to do much, and then they surprise you and become one of the superstar teams in the region.
Yeah, and they have a nice spot there in the zone. You see some of all the fights. We know there's so much chaos happening at this stage. Pure, what can he do? Ooh. Nicely done. That's actually going to be Trashy that he takes out. So pumping Trashy, right? Obviously, we spoke to them, and they came third last week. One of the better teams. You saw them almost raid bossing it through the lobby a couple moments ago, and now they're out of it. Just how quickly things can change at the highest level of Fortnite. Acorn in the feet going down, and so that's going to be something to watch out for.
What's scary is we saw Clicks and Donnie go fight after fight, still down on Surge. We just see them get 2 eliminations, still down on Surge. It's because everybody right now is just going for scraps. They're going for anything that they can get their hands on, which isn't much. And you see all the shields are low. And we see Donnie and Clicks, how they got themselves back up into tip-top shape. They finished off the battle. First it was Shonye. Now they finished off Polo. That full team is back to the lobby as well, but only 28 above the damage threshold. What's going on, Levin? Woo. That's Donnie. Saved by the hair on his chinny chin chins, taking out Warrior as well. Clicks and Donnie barely making it through the next phase.
Yeah, that was a very difficult rotation to make, but they still have some to do. It's not completely done yet. The hammer might just make it easier for them. There's less eyes paying attention to their spot, but really nice a limb there, just to give themselves some breathing room and an extra bit of juice to keep them going in this game.
Exactly. You got to be able to dig deep in tough moments like that. 218 above the damage threshold. Slowly but surely slipping down low, but that's why they're continuing to put the pressure on. They're noticing other players in the lobby begin to put those shots down, but that's Scare. That's Quanti. He jumps into the wrong box, trying to be the hero. Serves up another elimination. That was well-needed Surge, even if it wasn't him who actually got the knock.
That is a very nice find. Chubbs was like, hold on a minute. Somebody's just landed next to us, and then bam. A knocked body in that box. Free as you like. Doesn't get easier than that. Of course, they still will want to take up Quanti if they can find him, as they know he's alone. Sorry, Scare.
The different elevations in this next moving zone scares me just a little bit. There's Chubbs and Bryce trying to get themselves up and take out this next elimination. They heard the shields crack, and that's a huge moment for them as they're finding even more Surge as they were slowly but surely beginning to slip down below that threshold, but Cam and Jiggly are there. They realize that fight is done. They're trying to take advantage of anybody that they might think is weak in a situation like that.
Yeah, big things happening all across the lobby. Walkers and Vert trying to make their move now. And up the hill they will go. Need to make sure they stick together, just getting momentarily split up there. But this is one of the scarier teams in the lobby, a team that you don't want to give too much space. Don't want to allow them to work with too much because they will punish anybody and everybody. Another hammer going to be used just to make their final move into the zone. Donny and Clix, they're still alive and kicking in this game. I feel like throughout this whole game, they've never been in a spot where you went, oh, they're looking comfortable, they're looking good, but they're still making it work. But how much longer can they do that for?
They can make it far in this one. I see a YouTube video coming out in our future. How to win a game with absolutely nothing through and through, as it actually looks like they recovered very handedly. 5 eliminations, put themselves in a good spot, right at the edge of zone. You got to imagine when it comes to Storm Surge, they're probably neck and neck with that threshold, so they realize their job is not done just yet. They're not feeling content. They're not feeling comfortable in a situation like this. And that's exactly why Clix is peeking through, trying to find that information. Be ready for this next zone pull. So they got a little bit of a blessing here. They get the front side of zone for now.
All around the lobby. Rotations are being planned. You can see shots being fired all across. Battle for height going on to the top left of our screen, and no surprise there that Frets is somehow involved. He's always a name that's throwing himself in that sort of a raffle.
I love this. Reciprocal is a solo Shockwave Hammer. Usually as a duo, I look at them as one of the more aggressive duos in the lobby. As a solo, it gives Reciprocal just a little bit more to work with. Flying high through the sky, he gets tagged up just a little bit. A little bit of a warning sign, lets him know, hey, I gotta be a little bit careful. Watch out for the moves that I make. Being above on Storm Surge knows I can focus on different opportunities. Only 32 above, though, for Kanata and Agers. They've been in this situation time and time again. They have the brain needed to realize what situations they have to go for the damage and which ones they don't.
Raids and Moo gonna run into a bit of trouble, as there are players here on this layer that they need to be aware of. You can see Bracious carefully scouting out, making sure that everything is in order. And another instance of here why hammers are so important this season, allowing you just to move throughout the zones where things are a bit tricky, a bit sticky. Donny getting blasted out of the way by his teammate, but of course that augment's gonna allow him to just sort of glide his way on into zone. Very much coming in handy.
I bet he saw his life flash right before his eyes before he went outside of the zone, realizing I have that safety net. Braids feeling that pressure. Moo's gonna go down. Shockwave Hammer trying to get out of that chaos. You see the big bush bomb going down. That's gonna allow him to use his augment to try to gain as much HP as possible. But all the teams around them, they at this stage in the game know the augment, they know the situation, and immediately tear down the bush.
Walkers and Vert, though, they look like they might be the ones who are gonna hold height. I've talked about not wanting to give that team a lot to work with. And in this game, it's right now the perfect situation. Clix is so low, though, and that's not going to be enough to keep him in the game. He eventually falls. But even up above, things aren't looking too hot when it comes to the materials they have. A couple hammers away from being chopped completely out of this game, but making sure to pressure everybody beneath them, and that will be the end of Braves as well. Will be the one to deal the damage. And still, players below, having to make their way up hills. Very, very scrub situations, just getting squeezed between everybody else in the lobby.
Trying to stay ahead of the zone as much as possible, trying to focus just on getting to that extra layer. He has flashes to try to regenerate some of the HP lost. So does Kanata and Agers. You saw them take down some heavy hitters moments ago for their first elimination. They know as this one does progress into the top 11, those opportunities will come as Chubbs finds Burt with a little bit of height, takes him down. He knows somebody else is towards the backside, trying to wait as long as he can, but push comes to shove. Zone is there. He might have to go.
Chubbs has been so smooth in this game and hitting big shots as well. This is what you want to see from a team in week 3 of the quals. Can they keep it rolling? It looks like Agers is just a matter of moments away from being taken out. He barely escapes by the skin of his teeth. They'll keep it moving, though, and as they move towards the front, there will be plenty more opportunities for our limbs. Miro in a solo situation, not something he's a stranger to by any means. But can he perform at his best? Looking up for height, seeing if maybe there's an opportunity to take it. It wouldn't be out of character. Agers eventually falls, and that's at the hands of Miro. Actually, he'll certainly love that.
We see Miro in so many situations like this. This is where he thrives. This is where he's at his peak in those solo situations as Sinks and Blue putting down another big bush bomb. They could probably wait, stagger themselves, try to catch a team off guard as Miro's peeking through a lot of these covers. He doesn't want to get caught off guard, and with only 14 builds left, he's trying to recycle, use, and optimize the amount of resources he has.
Patiently waiting for the next zone to pull and for players to start making their move. And he actually might find a free one onto Spade there, and he needs to hit a couple more shots, and that's going to be some free loot. That's going to keep him alive. Just the one build, though. So we would have hoped to get a bit more, but he's still in this one. Chimp, on the other hand, can't say the same. How many times have you seen Height exchange hands this game. They were looking comfy on it, and now it's going to be Aiden, but he's not comfy. He has to drop down. He has to try hit something big.
And you can see him tagging up Miro, but realizing height is more important than chasing one solo elimination towards the low ground. Here on Miro's splash, he's going to take that as a sign. I could use the minis, but that same second is where Chubbs and Bryce steal away the high ground, and now it's theirs for the taking the entire game as they look down low, trying to figure out the information, trying to see where their targets are at.
Chubbs and Bryce sit up above the rest. And it must be a game that they have to deliver on. Blue down below picks up Miro. That's going to be his 5th of the game. And now in a 1v2, does he have the minerals to hold on and make a crazy play? You certainly think with just how strong Bryce and Chubbs are looking that they will be the victors here in game 1. But the job is certainly not finished. They can't get too ahead of themselves. And they're going to do their best now to not give Blue a chance to make a play. He's going to hammer up and then come down. Game 1 goes to Chubbs. Nicely done as well.
And they stole away height at that perfect moment too. You saw Vert, you saw Walkers, they had it for a couple of seconds at that until there were shockwaves, dropped down to ultimate low ground, but those are the opportunities everybody on the day should be looking for.
Bryce and Chubbs did so well throughout this game, and Chubbs in particular was just hitting some incredible shots. You saw their conquest of height was so impressive, and I think the theme in that game, Jacob, was just nobody seemed to have enough to hold on to it, right? We saw so many different teams up in that situation, and they just run low on mats, they run low on resources, and it's all over once somebody makes their rise. Chubbs, though, clean stuff. And of course, game 1 victors, that is the way to start the day.
Yeah, and honestly, the way it started from the early portions of the game all the way to the very end, it was like a feeding frenzy. These are players realize the position. They realize how important the day is. And for some, they're looking to make up the gap with eliminations.
Well, look, things are only just beginning to heat up, and there's plenty more on the way. So to break down that last game, we got Zeke, Taco, and Jen.
What a crazy first game here in NA East. Week number 3. My gosh, this really was a tale of no one has anything. We are all out of resources. We have nothing. And yet a lot of duos just showing up big.
Basically no breathing room for any of these teams, though. From start to finish of this lobby, we just saw so much jam-packed action. But Bryce and Chubbs, I think that they did a fantastic job there towards the end, Jenny, particularly with the way that they chose to optimize their shockwave hammers.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I was thinking too, like just watching that, and you saw Chubbs use an edit to break those builds instead of using that hammer to go up, which is really kind of something to point out because, again, using that hammer can be a little wonky sometimes, just you don't know where it's going to go specifically. So eyeing that edit and being like, I'm going to take this, it will break it down, is such a quick thinking on his part, and it just like played out very well.
Also just love the fact that while they're maneuvering through this low ground, even when their builds ran relatively low, because of the fact that they have that shockwave hammer in their back pocket, you never really have to worry about being able to actually chop people down from those high ground layers. And I think in particular, starting off with a 12 elims total is always a great place to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's to start game 1, right? That's exactly hitting the ground running. We are moving. Remember, we're looking to go straight to grand finals. We don't want to play in Surge Week. We just want to go straight there. Let's take a look. After our first game, there's a few callouts. I'd say like Miro, right? Ending in top 3 as a solo performer. That was insane.
It was honestly unreal, the fact that he managed to stay alive as long as he did, especially after losing Ed, once you start getting into those moving zones. But you just have to really understand that this is the reason why Miro is such a story player in terms of those solo clutch instances, because he just did not seem even the slightest bit concerned. He knew exactly where every single edit needed to go, every single challenge needed to be, and the fact that he was able to find consistent refreshes as a solo was also fantastic.
Yeah.
For sure. We take a look. Spade and Chimp currently in that 5th place spot, right? Once again, all these duos they just understand this kind of like thing we've been talking about, pressure, right? This is that last opportunity to try and either make it to Surge Week next week, grand finals, or your FNCS is done. A lot of these players, though veterans, they definitely understand there's a lot of pressure here.
Something that I couldn't help but notice, though, with Spade and Chimpers is that there was really no true control of that actual height. We saw at one point, Vert and Walkers, I believe, they had it by that first moving zone. We saw them holding onto it for a bit, but then you just see the total chaos coming through because of the shockwave hammers. Everybody trying to challenge for front side of zone, and Spade and Jimpers, while we saw them for height for a little bit, they just weren't able to actually maintain it, but still had a nice placement finish.
Yeah, and for those moving zones, that first moving zone being around water, that might be why you've seen them kind of like, all right, we're gonna play low ground here, we're gonna play mid, we're gonna do height. Just play around with every layer, because again, like in those circumstances with having just like the map and being like, all right, I don't want to get stuck down this water, I can't build in this position, I want to put myself in the most like ideal position to place well.
And again, talking about that height aspect when you're talking about positioning, Jenny, for Walkers and Vert, while we saw them able to actually take height momentarily, I think that this is a great example of just what happens whenever there isn't any true height control throughout a match. Because Walkers and Vert, yes, they were able to apply pressure from up above, but again, it is crazy just how fast you actually end up expending those builds, and especially due to that calamity of the Shockwave Hammer. But the most impressive part to me as well was the fact that Walkers was actually able to revive Vert in the midst of all this chaos because of the fact that they had height control for a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Even though they weren't able to hold it out for the rest of the game, that control definitely put them in a great position, and like getting those eliminations, they were solid. They're like, okay, we don't need to be too aggressive here. We could just stay, get a quick res, and continue on.
Yeah, a lot of these duos are all thinking the same thing, right? What are those little things? What are those things we can button up? Because we're looking for points. We're looking to just do well. We're looking to play consistent. Because remember, even if a duo somehow was outside of that qualifying range and then makes it, their journey's not done, right? There's still work to be done. If you're either going to Surge Week or Grand Finals, you still have to show up there and perform well.
Of course, and I think, again, we were seeing a lot of those duos that we kind of talked about on the top of the show, Trashy and Pump, Walkers and Vert, Miro and Ed. They are certainly making their mark still be known on these lobbies.
Yeah, and I think another thing I wanted to pinpoint is the fact that you see like Clicks and Donnie, for example, I'm getting it there. You see them landing at a POI that's very contested, so the ability for them to get out of that POI was amazing to see that they ended up in endgame. So I want to see if they will continue to be able to get out of that.
That's right. Well, guess what? We have games on deck. We can hear from your casters to get their thoughts on the upcoming games. So this is game 2 of the FNCS.
Absolutely love to see the solo clutches shine in game 1. For Miro, that was a huge opportunity for them to jump up the leaderboards. And for Ed, you got to be thanking him tenfold.
Yeah, of course, right? Any opportunity to start the day well will always be greatly appreciated. But of course, there is still plenty more Fortnite to be played. You can't afford to allow a, rough or unfortunate first game completely derail your tournament, especially in this lobby where it just means that much more.
Yeah, and for the team that got first, you got to realize there's 5 more games. You can't get content, too excited jumping out of your seat after only 1. And for the team that got eliminated first, you cannot let that bring you down. This is a much bigger moment than they realize.
Yeah, and of course, right, as we head into this next game, I think the question will be, will we see a switch up in some of the off-spawn battles that we had in game 1, right? Of course, you might think the day is going to go a certain way, and it doesn't go that way, right? We just see teams go, okay, hold on. First game, our drop was a bit bad, but we got it now.
Yeah, with Battle Bus ready, game number 2 is on its way, and I think a lot of these teams are going to have to take exactly what you said, the switch-ups, the adjustments, maybe not as drastic as changing up an overall POI, but let's take Slappy Shores, for example. Going against Acorn and Cold on the north side, that's not something you want to put all into one basket, but Sinks is down right out of the gate. Blue is going to have to dig deep after that second place finish. It's all on his shoulders. He's getting tagged up from all directions. 73 HP and a dream. The one thing that he has in his back pocket is that heavy shotgun deal a huge amount of damage as he takes down Haji, gets the siphon, gets the match, the resources, a perfect opportunity to turn things around.
How he's managed to find that, I do not know. That is a howler. If you're Suscript and Haji, you would have been hoping to just clean it out 2v1. Suscript, though, has a big job on his hands, and one that he definitely can handle. He just has to connect to that shot. Only the one build. I'm going to look to farm up a bit more, just to give himself something extra to work with, maybe. In this 1v1 situation, he will come out on top. He definitely would think that Blue has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Going to want to try and replicate their success from last game, and that's not going to happen, unfortunately. Suscript will hit a massive shot to the dome and win that one out.
In the distance, Aiden and Howd. Akifiro Their ears probably tingling, seeing that elimination go down. They're trying to sneak up onto that one, but our game #1 winners, Chubbs and Bryce, you can kind of see where they get off uncontested. They're just getting all the loot, all the resources they can before they enter into the mid game and begin to look for their surge tags, which are so important. And you can kind of already see it right out of the gates. That's Sprite on the other side. Whew, huge tags. Huge tags as Dave was going down. Bryce in a 1v2 situation takes both of those players down.
That is lovely stuff.
Wow. That was a huge Excalibur shot. Is Suscript going to make it happen again in another 1v2 situation? He has one player's weak. He has them separated, trying to go for the piece control, but his resources looking thin. High ground's going to be taken away. He's going to get forced down low in this situation, but the shot from the Excalibur still finding a way through, not doing any damage, but forcing Aiden to reposition.
Bro, I was about to go crazy. I thought he was getting PC, and he hit that little cone. Unfortunately, Suscript, though, the 2v1 was just a bit too hard for him to handle, and that's one of the unfortunate parts of having such a 50-50 drop where there isn't an incredible amount of loot to begin with. Just that potential for a third party to roll in right as your fight concludes is so prominent.
This is almost like revenge from week 1, where it was Booga and Peterbot landing Slappy Shores and kind of interacting and third-partying their fight towards South Slappy. Now they're doing it to Cooper and Hide and Seek and anybody else that lands on side of the map. And this is going to be a big moment for Hide and Seek. Even if he doesn't get his teammates reboot card here in this situation, him getting as many points as a solo is going to be important as Clicks and Donnie go up against Nosh and Nut, something we've seen week after week over towards Anvil Square.
Yeah, and in most of these weeks, it doesn't necessarily feel like there's someone who comes out as a definitive winner. And to be honest, I don't expect to see much change in that today. Of course, Clicks and Donnie, even with all the mitigating circumstances last game, were still able to have a very impressive round with a bunch of eliminations, making it quite deep into the game as well. How often are they going to be able to have games like that, even as skilled as they are? You never want to have games like that repeatedly. That would definitely be the sign of something not quite going right, especially in the mid game. But it all starts here early on. Aoxy and Swell in a fight. Aoxy having to do this one alone, though. He's already got one. Can he pick up the second?
Big opportunity in a 1v2. Like you said, one's already knocked, biding time, being patient, not just trying to get right in, just trying to fake it out. Maybe catch Aoxy slipping, but he has plenty of resources, including that mythical tactical pistol. So it's going to be a great opportunity for him to really just bide his time. All he has to worry about right now is using those splashes and making sure that Swirl regenerates some of the health. That gives him so much opportunity here in this 2v1 situation, because the longer it takes, that third party's going to come in and possibly scare user off.
User's just being so annoying about this. I'm sure Aoxy will be incredibly frustrated he's not able to get the res. That first shot, though, is going to be the opening for him to just sort of run his way on in and completely bulldoze user out of the lobby. Excellent stuff there from Aoxy. All it took was that just little window, that little opening, that first shot, and then bam, he strikes.
And I like the way he did it. He kind of baited out like he was going to get the res on his teammates and immediately pushed right back in after landing that shot. Mind games are just as important as the actual games that we're playing here. As Plague and Pure looking like they're trying to disengage out of this one. This is going to be a south zone this time around, so I kind of agree with them. You want to go and rotate sooner rather than later, so that way you don't get stuck, held out of zone by everybody else. As Clicks gets blocked off, trying to make an acrobatic play, flying through the sky right now. Donnie's going to be there with him. They don't have ultimate height just yet. That's going to go over to Woozy, who's trying to play defensive, trying to hold on to it as long as possible and buy Scold's time to be the help he can. Uh-oh, they get knocked. Woozy's still by himself. Clicks goes in. Huge opportunity. Huge defense from Woozy coming out as everybody really jumping to their teammates' aid here in this situation, as Clicks and Donnie slowing down when they need to, getting antsy when they have to.
Yeah, just a moment of calm now as they all sort of search each other out. There are players in the distance, as we know there will be here at Anvil. Scolds and Woozy still have a fighting chance. Well, with pressure being applied from all sides, it's going to just make things a bit more uncomfortable.
I like this play from Woozy and Scolds. You got to get out of there as quick as possible. The whole north side of the map is going to be pushing down sooner rather than later, especially when you don't have plenty of resources, you don't have heals. You got to go ahead and scavenge as much as you possibly can. in a situation like this. As we check out the replay, Macwood by himself. A huge shot can be landed on the Crazy GGs, and that's going to be a huge elimination for Macwood. I talked about them. They are inside of the bubble, but they haven't had that huge pop-off performance you would expect Macwood and Threads to have.
Hey, put some respect on Macwood's name. That was clean. Nicely done. But of course, the priority now will be to get Threats back in the game. And once he does that, there is going to be hope.
Going back to where they can scavenge up some loot, where not too many teams are going to be going because everybody else has to go to the southern portion of the map altogether. And for Vert and Walker, they got a little bit of a journey themselves as they're leaving past the Citadel, where a lot of teams probably already going through. And this is where they're going to have to make a decision. Do you continue going into where it is going to be crowded, or do you try to go a little bit more west and go towards the slower side of the zone where, in theory, like the least amount of teams should actually be?
If you're a Visor Reciprocal, obviously we saw last game, Splintered Reciprocal as a solo. So goal be this time to have both of them up in this game. Of course, like you mentioned, right? Very aggressive team. When they're feeling it, when they're in their flow, a very hard team to stop. Joji and Rokane caught here in the zone. There's a lot of players still actually fighting in the zone, and so they are definitely not going to be the only team fighting.
They are one of the teams that I think used the Elite Cups before FNCS as practice. They didn't fare very well, but since then, since FNCS rolled around, let me tell you, they've been playing on another level. Back to that championship caliber level, like we know they can play, they can threaten for the title at any moment. For Serves and Rapid, though, staying into the zone this long may not be the best play, and that's exactly why you're seeing them trying to disengage, get towards the zone. They are towards Brutal Bastions, so there's a lot of static launch pads and mobility for them to use. And this is going to be an opportunity for Yamso and Rise to try to sneak some Storm Surge as well. Click's getting woozy and scolded in the feed. That's going to be a huge one for him and a huge boost of confidence altogether.
Clicks is feeling it. You love to see it. Ooh, nicely done. The left-hand peek as well. That's never going to be easy. And then just rolling through it here. A big, big shot. And so Woozy, again, falling at their hands. It's going to be a tough one to swallow. But if you are a Clicks fan, you're certainly going to be rising right now, as these guys are looking at least somewhat better than they were in last game, which certainly bodes well.
As Jiggly Flopper and Cam trying to rotate as well. A lot of these teams, looks like they're not necessarily beelining it from north to south. They're just trying to get into the zone altogether. But Mini Miner, you got a mid-game. Go ahead and break it down for us.
Thank you, Jacob. Now, we just saw Macwood take out Kid Crazy, but Playify has managed to pick up the reboot onto Kid Crazy here. A really, really good play, of course, allows them to get back as a duo, but of course they are a little bit further back in the storm now, so we'll have to see how this duo develops. Will they use those chili chugs to make their way into the safe zone? We'll have to wait and see.
Mini Miners, mini breakdowns. Very, very crucial because there's so much destruction, there's so much chaos, there's so much that goes down around the map in a singular game. We have 6 of those at that. It's great to have someone like Mini Miner to kind of catch everything in his all-seeing eye.
I think mini breakdown's a bit harsh. That was a gargantuan breakdown from our boy Mini. Canada and Aegis here, sitting in the... Oh my goodness, that is unfair. A bunch of shots being hit by Kanada. That's exactly what you want when you're sitting in a bush for Surge. I'm sure those guys probably have Bush Warrior, so they will be fine in terms of getting the HP back. But again, that shock factor of just seeing all them 26s land is always going to be oddly satisfying.
For Kanada and Agers, one of the teams that don't really have much to worry about already in the grand finals. It's all about practice, that chemistry as a duo. As we already saw, Macwood win a huge 1v1, getting Threats back into the game, but still down on Surge. 46 below, now 30. They're continuously teetering themselves, flirting with that damage threshold line, and this is where they're trying right now while they're flying through the sky, gathering information on every team that's positioned around us. Who can we pounce on? Who can we take advantage of? And that's what Chimp and Spade are doing as well. Box to box, 187 above. They know they have time on their side before Storm Surge begins to activate, and a lot of time before it even affects them.
Yeah, and of course we saw last game, they were trying to play for height. They wanted to be the dominant high ground team, and it just didn't quite happen for them. They ran out of gas relatively soon. And so they'll try and make it back that way, but in order to do that, they're going to have to deal with this threat in front of them. Walls being taken, space having to be created, and angles not being covered. Chimp going to take some damage. And again, he's not even going to get the time and space to use the shields he wants to get himself back up. So now just going to try to go up and over, and that's going to get him punished as well. Rexo and Kicks relentless right now.
They have to. They're only 109 below the damage threshold, so that shot was definitely not enough. And that's where Rexo is immediately trying to take advantage of the situation, but the splash is coming out along with the shockwave, trying to displace Chimp and put him somewhere else on the map. But right into the builds they go. Rexo still trying to take advantage. The pressure is there, and I don't think it's something they want to let go. 23 seconds before Storm Surge begins to activate. They don't have a lot of time as the shockwave hammer comes out, but it backfires. A huge shot as Rexo gets dropped down to 48 HP.
Chimp and Spade, again, are looking a bit better now. And their opponents aren't pumping their chests out as much as they were a couple minutes ago. Plays right into their favor, right into their hands. Because now they sort of hold the keys, the door to this fight, waiting for them to make a mistake. And I think that mistake might have just been made. No, not able to capitalize. They got the cone placed down, but he was able to get out. But no, Kicks eventually falling right back into their trap. And so that's going to leave Rexo alone. Will Rexo be able to hold on? It doesn't look like it. Chimp having to back off for just a moment. Well, Rexo's only a couple HP away from falling, and that will do it. Storm Surge got the better of them, and so Spade and Chimp will profit from that loot. But not without some third-party fire coming in from the distance.
Polo's already down, so Shonye has his work cut out from him. Trying to be the hero so he doesn't end up the solo playing through the rest of this game. Macwood and Threats is just a bot shy, close by, waiting for this action to go down. Then they could probably be waiting for something as a signal to go as Storm Surge now ticking in. It makes it that much harder for Shonye to survive, and he goes down. That's going to be Pure who gets the siphon, gets the refresh, and they claim all of that loot on the ground, which doesn't look like much.
It wasn't much. It was not much at all. But they can't afford to sit there and complain. They have to start thinking about getting to zone. Pulling all the way towards that southwest area of Frenzy Fields. Walkers and Vert planning out their rotation. Another one of those teams, Jacob, who, again, was on height, was looking good, but then weren't as they ran out of mats.
See, that stat's a dangerous one. 60% of games across all regions this season have been won by uncontested teams. But I'm a glass half full type of guy. That means 40%. That's actually a good number for these teams that are going through it from the start of the game all the way to the end. And one of those teams is right before our very eyes. Macwood and Threats, 228 above the damage threshold. You can already see the Daily Angle Augment playing its role for them to try to survive as DJ and Muzz are trying to do the same thing. Box to box, Muzz is going to go down. Vert and Walker continue their spree, taking down another player.
Walkers and Vert. DJ is waiting patiently for them to make their move. And they hear him, they know he's here. So they're gonna try to deal with him, and although he returned with a big shot, Fusion just couldn't quite match the power of Vert and Walkers.
Looks like the first elimination. This is how it all began.
Wow.
The strength in numbers is huge because all it takes is 1 second being separated from your duo at the right or wrong time, depending on which side of the coin you're looking at, and that's what costs you it all. Is Clips and Donnie a much better start to their game this time around. They have 3 eliminations, not really having to worry about Surge at this point in time. They're in the zone as well. All the great things kind of stacking up one on top of the other as Macwood and Thread stacking up on top of that loot that they just found.
Yeah, Macwood and Thread, they might have spent more time actually in the zone than they have in the safe zone in this game so far. You've got to start worrying about storm sickness at that point with how long they've been chilling in it. But the good thing is they've actually made it this far. Right? I don't think many people might have expected that with just how difficult of a start they had. But nevertheless, they are still alive in this one. They've got 4 eliminations to their name as well, and they'll need a couple more if they're going to make this game count for anything significant.
A team that's kind of hoping for more, as you would say, 16 points, Acorn and Cold, uncontested for the north side of Slappy Shores. And already pushing in game after game. That's where their points are even coming from, to try to go ahead and third party that south side team. And This is an opportunity for them to enter in towards the mid game and really put themselves to the test. They're already in the grand finals. They clinched their spot, so it's about practice for them, or even pushing teams out of Slappy Shores altogether as Clix and Donnie once again finding themselves just inches out of zone. But that's not too bad of a spot for them because they can immediately block everybody else out towards the north side and then turn around and get in towards the south side.
Clix and Donnie will be very happy about how things are looking compared to last time round. And the Hammer to make their way on in. I know you were a bit worried about that one, Jacob. Don't worry, they're fine. They're big boys. They can handle it.
I saw Donnie and Clix go 2 separate ways up that shockwave. I was like, that is not what you want to have happen at a time like this, as Macwood with the double shockwave hammer. The only thing that's better than 1 is 2, as he takes usage of those, but it just goes to show having those extra slots means he's kind of down when it comes to the resource, and that's why you see them pinpointing, trying to target out somebody that is outside of the zone.
And to think for a team that has spent so much of this lobby on the outskirts, they are now a team sitting central, holding teams on the out. How things can change. Ed the Great picking up the finish there. Not going to be his actual owner limb, but nevertheless, him and Miro, they stand a chance in this game if they can stay together.
Temptation.
Both great solo clutches, but together, a powerhouse duo in this lobby, and one that definitely needs to have a good day.
You see Ed just looking at that loot. The temptation is there, but he's holding strong, continues to put the shots on. He knows it's bigger than just one moment. It's bigger than that pile of loot, especially since they're already stacked like a couple pancakes themselves already, waiting for the next end game, and they're a duo at that. And we already see what Miro could do as a solo last game. And I call this one of the most consistent teams that I've seen since joining the broadcast. Chimp and Spade, no matter if they're finding eliminations or just making it into the top 10, they're one of the teams I feel like I can count on. Clix and Donnie. They're always finding themselves just at the edge of zone, trying to force some people out. Almost makes me wonder about the forecast augment. Do they have it? Do they don't? As they're trying to go for that loop. We saw one side of the coin with Ed not taking the temptation. Clix probably in a different boat, much different situation. Tries to go for it, secures just a little bit, and immediately puts it to use to try to top him and Donnie off. This is a big moment. They find a launch pad as well. They find impulses, jellyfish. This was a good find.
Not a bad find whatsoever. Again, another game where things are really looking good for them. I think the one area where, of course, they will need to improve on is those materials, pictures down to basically wood. And so, gonna have to set up for a refresh and look for an opportunity, but with the firepower that those two possess, that's always gonna be possible.
Like the Chili Chug splashes on the Kanata. Something you don't see every day anymore. Trying to take advantage of the hollow chest and the find, but gets tagged up, trying to go ahead and find himself his next spot. Reunites with Agers, though. No sweat just yet. Not too much for them to worry about, as threats and Macwood put the pressure on from below, and that's where they're continuously building themselves up, climbing up that ladder so they don't have to mess with any of those players that are below them.
You can see now everybody again at that stage in the game where you just start setting up. You're thinking about when these zones start to move, how are we going to be best positioned to capitalize and reach at least that top 3 in this game? Horizon and Yomzo, a team that hasn't necessarily had a crazy amount of opportunities to show us what they can do at this stage in the game throughout the qualifiers, but here in this game, they got a chance to make the most of it, and a zone pool that isn't too bad for them either. Macwood and Threats, their comeback story in this game has been sensational. From down in the dirt now to a team that could very much upset players in this lobby, what they're working with.
It's 20 and Rhythm's gonna get sent back to the lobby. Their run in this game comes to an end. Kanata and Agers trying to continue their show. They get a little bit towards that front side of the zone, so the option's there if they want to stagger themselves back or not. As Rise and Yamzo, we're gonna have to figure out something here. Some sort of trick underneath their sleeve, figure out where they want to go, and already you can see them trying to use their resources, stick to the front side, and eventually you could bet on them to try to look back and catch elimination, just like Walkers and Burt. They're barely above the damage threshold, not too much to work with. Both of them trying to shockwave hammer to safety, using that zone, using that slow side to their advantage, trying to sneak up onto Encrypted, realizing he was caught out. Encrypted is there, a chance to strike, gets boxed up, and sent Walkers and Burt back to the home.
Yeah, that was a very awkward situation. Encrypted just about handling it well enough. Yomzo and Rise, though, they're going to stay on the move. see here down below, they're going to be players on the layout, players who could cause issues for them. Kanada and Aegis, they're going to be causing issues for everybody in the lobby with where they sit, perched up just above everybody else and picking up the limbs as well. Reciprocal will fall at their hands. And so it's looking very, very good for Kanada and Aegis right now. If they can continue to start picking players up and start getting that loot as well, they're going to be able to hold on to something. Nixo going to be a thorn in their side potentially. He needs to stay out of trouble.
See him just using every tool in his tool belt to try to get in, even using old resources, old builds to try to get where he needs to go. As Macwood and Threads use the last bit of the resources before they go and use that shockwave hammer. Kanata and Aegis get contested momentarily by Roken and Joji. They stop. They realize it's not a fight they want to take just yet, but Kanata doesn't want to let them go that easy. Tries to chase him down low. Doesn't go through as Clips takes down Thatch as well. Macwood and Threads still looking for that refresh.
Yeah, they need to find something. Macwood is almost running out of time. There's a player on this wall, but he's so low, he can't do anything about it. That's going to be Mira and Ed that take them down. Ed picking up both of them, and now they can start to make their move.
This is where the story takes its turn. Miro gathering those points as a solo. Last game, and the duo returns to try to take what's theirs. The Yamzo and Rise trying to do that same thing. 2 eliminations on the Rise. They got themselves everything that they needed, even ultimate low ground, trying to stay ahead.
And they've claimed so much space down there. You've got to think that players are going to start running in. They're going to start picking up the limbs very, very soon. Kicks and Donny, they've been ever present in this game, and now for a moment, you've got to think they were looking at height, but Kicks ultimately deciding he needs to fall down below. They need to try find something, and they need to regroup, and that's what they'll do. Blake with a big shot there, needing to connect with more, but a hammer to move himself forward is going to be the priority.
Yeah, if anybody can really do it, it is going to be Blake and Bizzle as they reunite yet again, trying to get into the front side of zone as Rise gets caught out. Clicks finds another one. 6 eliminations for himself. They're getting themselves into the top 11. It was actually both Ianzo and Rise he took down as he's going through so much madness, so much chaos, and still finds a crevice of safety towards the low ground and trying to do the same, but doesn't get that same luck.
Blake and Bizzle, though, they keep it moving, and they're going to keep looking up, going to stay aware of everything that's going on around them. They might just spot Kanada running across their walls here in a moment. If they can find something, they want to find something, and so that would be the place to find it. Down below there are players that they can take out as well, just staggering themselves, staying in the backside of the zone. They're running low on materials, and so having to stay reserved. Pamstu, though, needing to stay out of the way of those players who are trying to break their way on in. That's going to be Clicks and Donny. We know what they're feeling like in this lobby.
Slow to get off the raise, but you know once they get there, they're forced to be reckoned with as Clicks will not go down. Following Donnie hip to hip, making sure they use their teamwork to make the dream work. Joji gets dropped down low, but Shockwave Hammer right back up to cause the chaos and finds a huge one onto Kanata as he continues to put the damage down. Pamso's out as well. Joji, call him butter because he is on a roll.
Wow, Joji causing havoc for everybody and picking up a 6 now. And he's going to use that hammer again. We saw the chaos it caused the first time round. Can he do it again? No, he can't. That's going to be Clicks taking him out. Kanada and Aegis, we saw them before, looking very strong. It's not the same now, but they still are in this game. They still have control of low, and there are players here that they can take out. They still remain as a duo, and that's going to be the ever important thing here as they're going up against Clicks and Donny, a team who is on fire in this game, but getting chopped down. Can they connect? Clicks has hit everything, but now it's time for Donny to clean up, and he will take down Kanada and Aegis to win the game.
And that's what makes this duo so special. From games 1 and games 2, you saw what they went through at Anvil Square. It didn't look like they would ever make it out, and not only did they make it out, they made it to the top of the mountain.
Clicks and Donny were just on a roll. I'm sure there are plenty of people watching this at home who are thinking, wow, this is exactly what I expect to see Clicks doing. A player of his talent, and of course playing with Donny, both of them doing incredibly well. Absolutely insane in this game, man. Look at this from Donny. As the final moments came through, he hit the shots he needed to hit. Clicks could just sit back and watch. What a game. Game number 2 has not disappointed by any means.
Yeah, they found that moment. They took away height. They saw everybody was down low fighting each other, and then they just secured it at the end of the day. From that game 1 all the way to here to this game 2, Clicks and Donny, every time they just keep getting better.
Look, I was so impressed. There were so many teams in that game that looked strong, and they just rolled through them. They said, look, we're Clicks and Donny. We can do whatever we want. I'm very excited to see what the standings look like now. Jenny, Taco, Z, what you got for us?
Clicks fans, rise up! He got himself a victory royale alongside Donny. I don't want to say I'm surprised, because I'm really not, but this is Clix in his element, right? When it's Clix against the world, this is what you can expect to see. Running around just solo by himself thinking, all right, who wants a taste? Who wants to step up? No, back to lobby you go. This is why you will also see them at the top of the standings, right? These guys went crazy.
They really did. Like I pointed out just a minute ago, Clix and Donnie having a drop spot in Anvil Square that is so contested. We're like, are they going to get out? How is that going to do? Because again, we saw in past weeks that sometimes they weren't able to. They have figured it out, Zeke. They have been like, you know what? This is what we're going to do. They've done it well. They've made it a point to rotate, get that positioning, getting an end game, and again, securing that victory.
Yeah, knowing that this was a southern polling zone for them, making the rotation out of Anvil Square, it's important to make sure that they don't lose track of all those duos that are rotating from that north side down south with them. But I think that most importantly of all, when they had the height control at the end, I love the way that they actually utilize a pincer maneuver, actually choosing to attack one on the front side, one on the back side. That way they can make sure that whoever it is they were pushing, which would happen to be Aegis and Kanata there at the end, just didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, and of course, Aegis and Kanata, they still also perform well, right? There's just so many duos who are really kicking into gear here in week number 3. But yeah, I mean, for Clix and Donnie, I'm happy to see them get that victory out, right? This is a high caliber duo that we would expect victory outs from, but now they can actually say, hey, look, check the stats, we did that.
And again, with Kanata and Aegis, they certainly had a pretty solid matchup here for themselves as well. I mean, the fact that they were able to elevate themselves 6 placements in terms of the leaderboards, but we also just saw a lot of running them down happening from Kanata and Aegis. At one point, they did have a little bit of that height control, but again, it's been very difficult, Jenny, for these teams to actually maintain that height control.
Yeah, I did love seeing that they got that height because, again, like you can see how amazing it was for them to get those eliminations on that height. Again, height does win games. We've seen it happen again and again. And it did, I mean, they still play so well. And I think I want to see if they're going to continue to go for height in the future games.
I think that's been the talk of the town, especially in the first 2 weeks, was week 1, we saw like some players take height, but it didn't matter, right? Because Shockwave Hammers, we're going to pull those players down.
Right.
But now we're returning to a Fortnite of old, right? The Fortnite we're kind of used to seeing, hey, there's duos on height. What are they going to do? How are they going to close it out? I wonder if that's just because of like where we're at, right? People are just thinking we have to kind of take it back there if we want to make it to the next stage of the competition. But really quickly, we just take a look at the standings. Look at this. Remember, you look at these little numbers on the left side, that's their placement, and right one over, how many places they went up or down the standings. A couple key notes, Clix and Donnie, of course, after that game, way up, right? 8 placements. Joji and Rokane up 20 places after a single game.
But that's the beauty of each and every single one of these matches, Zeke, is the fact that a single highlight performance can really elevate your team's positioning so far up in those leaderboards, and I think that that's really all we're looking for here.
That's right. We shoot for the sky. We shoot for the stars here in Fortnite. Now, really quickly, we do have to touch on Storm Surge, right? How some of these duos are trying to adapt, especially with this being that final opportunity, either before Surge Week or Grand Finals. They have to have that strategy on lock. So, talk to us here about Moo and Braids.
Well, they were a duo that I think really stuck out in this particular example because of the fact that we see Moo and Braids, they establish a base really early on, kind of sandwiches all those teams that are trying to move from the north side of the map, rotating south side, because this is a south pulling zone.
Yep.
With it being in Frenzy Fields and their drop spot actually being just north of Frenzy Fields, it was very easy for them to establish this monumental base, Jenny, and they basically just took over and were able to secure all of their search tags.
Exactly. They had that mindset of like, look, we know all those north teams are going to have to come south. We're going to take advantage of it, and we're going to be like, look, this is our area. You guys are not getting down here unless you go through us. And I love to see that they use that to their advantage to get damage and take care of Storm Surge. Amazing.
Sometimes you just have to be the gatekeepers of your own destiny and say, when in doubt, build a superstructure. No one else can stop us. That's it. That's all. I feel like that's the strategy.
It's just the strategy.
Everybody just wherever you're at, build a massive tower and Surge is solved. That's what I'm seeing. Is that it?
From time to time when it happens to work out like it did in that particular instance, but I wouldn't bank on it every single time. It's just elevation and utilizing the map's natural elevation is always phenomenal.
Yeah, and we've even seen some players be like, hey, let's knock out some trees. There's all kinds of little things, all right, that these duos can use to kind of deal with their Surge issues. But I know what you guys are excited for. It is more games here from the FNCS. Guess what? We've got games for you. That's right. This is game number 3. So find your seat on the bus. It's go time.
from Joji in that game to Clicks getting that victory royale. This is madness at its finest, and it being the final week and the final chance, I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, I'm a happy bunny today. Of course, I'm a massive Clicks fan, you know, so seeing him win games makes me happy, but I'm sure there will be plenty more opportunities for him to do so, as well as the rest of the teams. And there were a bunch of players in that game that certainly showed me that they have what it takes.
Yeah, and one of those teams, Pamsto and Fatch, they had an impressive 10th place finish in week 1, and they need some big moments here. And they're a little slow off the drop, but Pamsto once again shows what they can do when they get to the end game.
Yeah, and I think the key here is composure as well. We're seeing teams just absolutely roll through players, showing us what they can do. And once again, here in game number 3, the chance to do just exactly that as the players begin to leave the battle bus.
This is a big moment, literally directly in the center from west to east. And if you're Anvil Square or a fan of that one, that triple contest can come right out of the gates as Blue and Sinks are there in another back-to-back off-spawn fight. Sinks gonna go down right out of the gates, leaving it all up to Susscript and Haji there in a 2v1. Could be theirs for the taking. You can see him leaving some loot for his partner as well, making sure they both have some weapons to cause some madness.
Yeah, and this time round, closing things out relatively quickly in terms of the first one, but Blue is going to just sort of do his best to try and recoup. We, of course, saw this turn into a 1v1 situation last game. This time they need to make sure they keep it a 2v1. They don't want to give Blue a chance to take them out, put them on the highlight reel. You can see just how closely they're sticking together, hit by hit right now. They don't want to give him a 1v1.
It's not what you want to do at all, as Blue continues to go up to the highest point that he can. That way he can finally pop that big pot. At least 170 shield and HP to work with. As Haji and Susscript, they're just kind of looting, they're matting up, gathering the resources towards the low ground. There's nowhere Blue can go at the end of the day, and it even looks like they might be chopping down the big redwood. This could be an opportunity for them to force him down, and that's exactly what it's going to do. He knows sooner or later the inevitable is going to happen. He has to interact with these players as Haji and Susscript keep control of that low ground. They're not doing too much because you got to add on to the fact that the card is probably there as well. Probably doing the same thing, realize how important this off-spawn exchange is. His survival means absolutely everything. 88 points. They're high up there on the leaderboards after that week 1, or I should say game 1 finish, and there it goes. The tree comes tumbling down. Blue's forced to the low ground, and this is where Haji is immediately trying to take another angle, even the high ground. Add it all up, stack it all up at that, as Blue continues to get forced down low now. And this is basically Haji and Susscript. It's theirs for the taking.
They're going to have to connect to these final shots, sir.
A little bit longer than I think they would hope for, but landing here towards the outskirts. Not too many teams around them. They know they have timing on their side. Blue realizes that might not be the same thing, but a huge shot as Blue's trying to make something out of nothing. Gets caught in the box, taken out altogether. You got to give him an A for effort, but he goes back to the lobby altogether.
The key for that team is then not getting third party. We saw that be an issue for them in game 2. We need to try to get out of there before that team towards the north starts to roll on in. A quick little replay here. What do we have on our screens? Rice. A bit awkward in terms of that fight, but nevertheless taking Day out. Of course, we've not seen much of Day when it comes to these qualifiers. It's actually the first one that he's going to be playing in. So starting off today, not too hot. And taking out off spawn is not ideal, especially considering how big of a day they need if they want to make it to the final, to Surgery.
It's just amazing seeing this again, what Clicks and Donnie are actually going through over here towards Anvil Square. Confidence at an all-time high after that victory royale, and immediately you can see them disengaging. This is their plan B. They have their loot path, or they're going to pick up the scraps, pick up that little bit extra they need to continue on with their game. Spade and Chimp, they got their little split here towards the southern portion of the map. One, maybe two teams around them, but much distance between the two, so they got very little to worry about. Trying to mat up, trying to farm up, getting all the brick and wood that they can. The thing that's going to be scarce around these parts is the precious metal.
Yeah, and they might need to speed up their plans, because depending on where that second zone pulls, this game could get very, very difficult for them. Of course, they're as far south as you possibly can be. The zone pulling already towards that north area. Good chance they'll do that again. So we'll have to watch out and see what happens in terms of their zone luck for Curb. So he has a fight he has to finish off. One that is also important is it will hinge on whether or not this game will continue for him, or whether he can pick his teammate back up.
I like the cut. Just sees almost every single competitor you can see in Fortnite, from the Collegiate Cups to FNCS. He's been around the world and back, and he's trying to make sure that the player does not escape. Impulse is going out. He knows he has the shield from Serbs done and gone. Excalibur rifle trying to destroy the builds, make his job that much easier. And you can see him looking around, trying to gather that information. You called it yourself. A little bit of a north pull this time around. And you could see in the minimap that third party slowly but surely creeping in, trying to figure out what all this noise is all about.
And if they do, they'll be very happy to find two lowly solos lurking in the area. For Vert, though, things are not looking too good to start the day at Citadel.
Not at all.
I feel like the problem with this team, right, is that there've been so many games where going into the end game, you think they look good, they can make something work, and it hasn't quite pieced together like that. So, not the best of starts in this game. You might see that trend continue.
Got scoped and visuals, or I should say just scoped, as visuals got taken down by Moo. They already come off the back of one off-spawn fight that they were victorious at, and this split getting a little bit more active as the games go on. Now Scopes by himself, being backed up into a corner. Braids take the pieces, then goes above and around, making sure to kind of dwindle down his options, continuing to knock on the door, staying ahead of the game altogether as Moo gets that final shot, sends him back to the lobby altogether. After such a great start for Scoped and visuals, it's just kind of unfortunate that they ran into Braids and Moo directly after.
Yeah, they're gonna have to start picking things up and fast. They can't afford to keep having these games. But Ed and Miro, though, they'll want to have plenty more of the games they've already had. They've been a big part of the story of this lobby so far. Certainly haven't disappointed by any means. Would love to see them get a nice pop-off win. I'd probably say the same for Canada and Ages as well. I talked about how after the impressive week 1 performance, a bit more quiet in week 2, but back to being as loud as you like here in week 3. Sitting in a nice position, they're just going to look for Surge all around. There will be players rotating in this general area as they start moving towards the north, and so there will be chances for them to hit some shots.
Yamzo and Rise, we talked about them quite a bit. Just waiting for them to really get into their groove. We know how high their ceiling actually is. It's just about being able to reach it game after game, time and time again. Yamzo just trying to gather some height, go for those surge tags that we desperately need to keep him and Rise on the offensive end. Walker is down. Vert's there trying to get the res. Shots coming in from the Excalibur rifle, but Knifer knows I don't have Nounsy either. I can't waste all my time putting the damage on for something that's going to be inevitable. They're going to get the res sooner rather than later, and you can already see in the minimap that one already came to fruition.
Yeah, and so for this one with Knifer, I don't think a fight is going to be his best bet. If he can pick up his teammate, Nounsy, that's going to be his best option.
Thatch and Pam. See them really getting right out of the gates, off spawn. That's where I think a lot of their struggles would be at. So in order to get to this point, it's only an upward trajectory. They're trying to find a little bit of friction, trying to get towards the zone, a little bit of a speed bump. But that's not going to stop them. They're going towards the east side, the slower side, in theory, of the zone, to where not very many people are at. Chubbs and Bryce from that victory royale in game number 1. They're trying to keep that consistency. They're trying to keep the momentum intact because week number 3, this is the last chance. You don't want to slow down here.
Chubbs patiently waiting. Let's see where that zone pulls up towards the northwest, and so not maximum north, but still going to be a rotate and a half for some of them teams in that faulty splits area.
Already I'll see. bunch of teams land there, just like Kanata and Agers. Everybody really trying to disengage and scramble outward. Acorn and Cold, much better performance in that last game. Fortunately, still fell all the same. Just really trying to bully everybody out towards Slappy Shores. On a normal, everyday basis, they usually land towards the south. This time around, without Booga and Peterbot in the lobby, they're landing towards the north side and really just trying to third party. They're trying to make sure they force everybody out of what would be their POI. And right now, you can see them on the defensive end. With Cooper there, no Seek. You ought to imagine he's by himself trying to get the reboot. Clicks in Donnie. You saw them very, very early on disengage. Try to give themselves better loot, which worked out to success. You can see they're kind of stacked up here, other than the metal, which is scarce around a good portion of the map. And they go back towards Anvil Square, knowing they have to go back to their POI to get the Storm Surge. I'm just trying to think right now as Clicks is figuring out, do I want to use this augment here? Do I want to save it later in the game? And that's a real strategy for a lot of these players. For maybe forecast, you save it for the later zones. You can see that mythical tactical pistol, being able to grab that, you save it for later in the game while you utilize your red eye for Storm and Surge early in the game. Augments just bring a whole nother layer to Fortnite right now.
Yeah, we're seeing different teams switch it up and use it to match the flavor of the kind of game they want to play. For Acorn and Cold, right now, this is certainly not the flavor they were wanting to rock with. Right now, Cooper blocking their access to be able to move out of Slappy Shores.
Keeping that pressure, trying to knock him down. Cooper realizing what's about to happen, trying to stop it, putting that pressure on to Acorn. And you can kind of see where everybody's at. 221 above for Acorn and Cold. It's not going to be too much of a worry. They already got that first elimination added on top. As they continue, they're not worried about zone right here. They have all those slap barrels that are around them to regenerate the HP, actual slap juice, the splashes they have on them. They have all the time in the world to challenge this.
Acorn and Cold. Time is not necessarily on their side. But for Cooper, he's just gonna look to play the long game. Make things as frustrating for them as possible as they look to move on out. But of course, with all that's going on here in the lobby, there's only one man that can fill us in on some of the things going on with the other top teams around. So we're gonna throw it to Mini Man on the sidelines. Mini, what you got for us?
Got some juicy stuff here, Levin. We got Clicks and Donnie, of course, hot off a victory royale. They're actually using some interesting Storm Surge strategies. They have the Bush Warrior augment enabled, and of course they can enable them to heal up whenever they go inside of a bush, saving them valuable heals that they can use later on in the game. While they're in the bush, of course, they can pick up so many great Storm Surge tags, as we see here. So this will be invaluable for them to hopefully pick up another W.
Thank you so much for the Mini Miners' big breakdowns. When it switched it up already. Don't worry, Mini Miner. We can talk about how we're going to make that word at the end.
Look, if they don't get the W, they might get sent back to the lobby, and that would not be ideal. I'm sure Mini Miner knows a lot about that one. For them, though, if they are going to continue along this streak, the question will be just how effective can it be? Because, of course, when it comes to Clicks, of course, a big fan favorite, a big name, respected, but never quite having the levels of performances that would match his name. And so if they're gonna hold on, they're gonna have to put on a show for us today.
Something that we've seen more and more throughout each of these weeks is the usage of that Falcon Scout, especially later on in the game. You see where these players are actually boxed up with Storm Surge already ticked in. Warriors trying to make it happen, but he gets dropped down. Crazy's there as well. Playify, he's knocked, so it ends up in a 1v1 situation here. This is where Crazy is just trying to back up. 17 above the damage threshold, which isn't a ton to work with, but for him, it might just be enough to keep themselves above the curve as Aviv still getting aggressive, not wanting to let it go easy for Crazy. You can already see the slurp juice ticking up, and that's why you see his health slowly but surely raising, and that's why he's trying to buy as much time as possible. And Aviv, he just threw the body out. That's not exactly what he meant to do, but sometimes you literally think outside of the box. He's gonna chase the loot. Not something I'd advise, but the third party's coming in from all directions now.
Yeah, might cost him as he drops down here. An opportunity to farm up a bit more. Give himself that bit more to work with, but really see, even if he is able to get out of this situation somewhat okay, the journey to zone is going to be one that is quite grueling for him. Shots coming in from that side. He does want to take Kid Crazy out though, and I think he's going to keep on waiting for that opportunity. And it might just present itself to him. No, there's another player here that he has to worry about. So now dancing around all these pieces, moving box to box to try to get out of the way.
That was actually brilliant. Pam's went fast, just hit him with a quick one as Aviv. It's crazy with a quick one. Pamso just went up, they landed one shot, they're like, hey, got my surge, and immediately left. Meanwhile, Aviv is still on the hunt, finds that elimination, thinking, hey, you can throw anything at me, I'm gonna find a way to survive, but now he has to find a way to get his teammate right back into this one as the zone continues to converge. Everybody closer and closer together. Aiden down, 17 below the damage threshold, and that's why you see them hunting with all-seeing eye, trying to look around the lobby, find somebody and catch them off guard, because all they need is just one shot.
It only takes the one, and they need it to show itself to them very soon. Those guys building in wood will present a potential opportunity, but quickly able to cover their tracks.
You see them going above, and then immediately one above the threshold. Better than nothing at this stage in the game, especially with so many teams that are around them. They kind of smell that they're weak. You can see them try to go as Clicks and Donnie. They got that early game surge that Minnie was telling us about, but it's only 90 above. They realize it's not a position to feel comfortable just yet, and Click's shield just gets dropped right before our very eyes. And the fact that he's using splashes leads me to believe Donnie might not have very many heals on him either.
Yeah, this is a game where they're gonna need to find something in order to sustain them. Of course, they're gonna have to use shields as the game goes on. Acorn has fallen though here, and so a bit of a tricky thing. Oh, Cold's actually gone down as well, so the both of them being taken out here. Canada and Aegis, whenever there's trouble in the lobby, you always expect these guys to be somewhere around.
And you got to imagine for Acorn and Cold staying that far in zone towards Slappy, really causing them to get aggressive on the team because of Storm Surge, and that's not a team you want to get aggressive against. Canada and Aegis, they're just waiting for a moment to be tested.
Yeah, and regardless of how low they were and how tough of a situation it was for Acorn and Cold, Canada, they're always staying in tip-top shape, ready to hit the shots, making it look easy. And now they can start to run their way on into zone.
It's tagged up yet again. Finding splashes out of nowhere, but down goes Donnie. Clicks now has to be the hero. You can immediately see him trying to beeline, get to where Donnie's at. He does have a shockwave hammer, a get out of jail free card. Somehow gets the little bit of scraps that was there and immediately trying to get out. Clicks is one of those players that knows how to test the limits. And against Scold and Woozy, a team that they've been fighting almost all day long up until this point.
It's like they're magnets drawn to each other clearly in this lobby, but the problem is, like we said earlier with Clicks, is this the inconsistency that we've seen be such a problem for him in the past, shining through right now. Of course, Donnie isn't here, and so he's gonna have to pull up one of his better solo performances in this game. Ed and Miro, they're still alive. Not looking as strong as they have been in some of the previous games, but still a threat. Click's actually going down in the feed, so that's gonna be the end for him. And if Ed and Miro aren't too careful, they might follow. They need to get their way into zone. Start to build their way through now as well.
Everybody right now feeling the effects of either playing too passive or a little too aggressive and not having much to work with. Jiggly Floppers and Cam, 9 below the damage threshold, luckily for them. That's not too much, but at this stage of the game, everybody's kind of boxed up in their hard match from brick to metal, so getting some of the peak, that's what's going to be difficult as they continue to fall lower and lower. 41 below, trying to put that pressure there from the distance without showing too much. Nick strikes back. That's going to be a trade in shots, but it's not really moving the needle for Jiggly Floppers and Cam just yet. But that final shot by Cam really makes the difference. 88 above, lands another one, 115, giving themselves at least a sigh of relief.
Yeah, we know that they can beat big pop-up players. And given a chance, Bryce and Chubbs, they found an opportunity and they look to strike. And they get in there nice and quickly. Gonna get what they need and get out, not loitering for too long. But Chubbs maybe, just maybe finding something a little extra that he wants to pay some attention to. Bryce is gonna be actively looking at their surroundings, making sure nobody is a threat to where they currently sit in the lobby.
No chimp to spade is there. Bryce already spotted that one out. Trying to put pressure, doesn't want to let anybody get too close to their box, doesn't even want to give them an opportunity if they're down on Surge or even need a refresh to get close enough, as Hound lost Aiden. Walker's already lost Vert. And Hound doesn't really have any shields to regenerate here, and he knows Walker's down low, so he has to be careful. That's why he's going to stagger himself out. He has the med mist to use if needed, as Walker uses that launch pad. We can see the double-edged sword of how it is playing out. Takes so much damage trying to get from point A to point B, and now he's getting pressured, not buying the time in order to stabilize himself in this situation, running out of resources, running out of mats. Hopefully he found the time, the few seconds needed to get his shields back up.
Yeah, and Walkers would be hoping and praying that Vert was in this one, just to be able to provide some support. That's not going to be the case in this game. He has to make a way for himself. Up here, though, looking on the rest of the lobby, things are looking rather fine. Not a care in the world.
And you see them just really trying to join hands with the rest of the lobby, putting some shots on a couple players that see already becoming the focus of some. But now they get aggressed, but luckily for them, they have their head on a swivel, looking out from all angles. That's Chimp and Spade, that was close by, but they get out of dodge as Miro takes down Walkers. That solo run comes to an end, and him and Vert are gonna have to rethink their strategy going into the fourth game. And for everybody else, it's about trying to get through the different elevations all the way towards the zone, where it's gonna be slip and slide at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's gonna get real fun for us to watch, maybe not for the players to play. Canada and Aegis, they always have fun in these kind of lobbies because there are plenty of players that they can just take out at will. Macquid and Frets, maybe, just maybe looking to position themselves for height early if possible.
And for them, they have such great games, but it's just that pop-off game that they're really lacking to really seal the deal and really go for the home run.
Chimps and Spade. Just gonna exchange some shields. They need to get themselves back up. They want to be at maximum capacity once they start to look and fight teams. For Ryzen Yomzo using the Shockwave Hammer just to find their position in the zone, and a nice one as well. The layer is rather clear. Not going to be anybody to cause them issues there. They can start to look for refreshes right now, same way Bryce and Chubbs are doing. They need to be careful. The Frets and Macquid are also on that layer. Canada, in the normal circumstance, you'd expect him to hit a big shot there and get out of dodge, but having to use some shields.
Yeah, huge trade with Macquid and Francis. Chimp, he's under pressure, under siege, 23 HP. He loses Spade across the way. Now he's trying to do anything that he can. Luckily for him, he does have some minis, one splash to work with, along with that Shockwave Hammer to keep himself alive. As Ed and Miro, 4 eliminations so far, 156 points, trying to have a miracle day and a miracle run to go directly to grand finals.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy though. They're going to have to keep on using that Shockwave Hammer just to create some space. Ed getting knocked back into zone though, and so he's going to have to try catch up with Miro. That's always a tough thing to do. Macquid and Fret still alive though, still fighting in this game, and still looking for opportunities to sort of claim a layer and take players out. And this might just be the moment for it.
I'm a little scared of seeing him that high in the sky. 20 and Rhythm at a moment's notice. Somebody could chop him down. It looks like shots are coming through. They're trying to put pressure down low. Bryce and Chubb still fighting through the chaos. Macquid and Threats getting towards the front side of zone. Hopefully it's going to pay off for them, as Chubbs and Bryce, they're just going to go and shockwave themselves there, staying up a few layers to make sure not to get caught in the chaos. As Chimp, as a solo we talked about a moment before, that Shockwave Hammer really proven to be wonders for him in his survival.
Chimp can't get caught in the chaos. He is the chaos right now, the way he's using that hammer. And so many players are going to be looking to do similar things. Miro, he does still have his duo in this game. You wouldn't think that. It always feels like he's playing as a solo, but he carries the power of 2 players, a powerful strike there to shut Mu up. And then, again, the Shockwave to keep himself moving up and up, finding his teammate now. And now there's an opportunity for these two.
That's what you call creating a perfect moment. Into the top 10 we go, as Chubbs and Bryce trying to go for a repeat, but we lose Chubbs. 5 eliminations so far for the duo, as Bryce is trying to hold on, but the blessing happened. They get the miracle. Zone pushes back. That buys 20 in Rhythm extra time on the high ground with very little teams that are down low and that can contest them.
And then they're still looking so strong. A bunch of materials in their hands, and so you'd like to see them hold on to height. With the distance between them, you won't see any hammers moving on up. Chimp, though, down below, not working with much, has to hit a big shot. Canada in a very similar situation, but we know that's exactly what he can do, and that's what he will do. A spectacular shot onto Polarize, but he's looking for more. He has to hold on. The chunk splashes are going to keep him alive for the moment, but he needs to get into zone, and while he's in it, he's spotted some players. There are players around him. He has to hit a big shot here. Just a wood wall separating him between Bryce. But Bryce gonna look to get way on out of there with the hammer. He doesn't want any part of that. But now he does. He drops back down into Granada's face and takes him out and almost hitting another one, but won't connect.
Ed, he gets one on a batch. Miro's left by himself. There's get together when they need to most. Yamzo and Rise on the other side of that cover. Miro spots him out, and he's choosing to go ahead and let them live. We're into our final 3 teams, 20 in Rhythm. Gotta be happy on that high ground, high in the sky. But the players that are down low in the dirt, this is where it's going to get interesting, Levin, because sooner or later, they're going to have to interact.
Miro, Ed, any interaction with them is lethal for the other party, especially when Miro is hitting shots like he currently is. Rise and Yomzo eventually gonna have to come crashing down in their faces, or maybe they'll look to try and get involved in height now. These guys have been up there way too easy, and it's not a distance that Rise can close with the hammer. Way too many layers in between them, so he has to just go back down, and when he goes down, he's gonna find Ed, and so Miro gets knocked into the zone. He picks up Rise, but that's not gonna be enough for Yomzo. Now trying to finish the job, but he can't. 20 in Rhythm with the easiest game they'll play all day long. Up above the sky, nobody could do anything about them.
Yeah, you got to give Yamzo and Rise props, though, trying to contest it throughout all that, still going for that big play, but it just wasn't enough. The pressure they would have been able to put on zone after zone, 20 in Rhythm, just held on. And with the red eye, you know how hard it is to put down the pressure, but they made it work and even found eliminations along the way.
Yeah, the way they played that was so safe. It didn't really feel like there was anybody that could really stop them. And then, of course, dropping down instantly, right? Not even giving the Yomzo a chance to breathe after taking down Miro and Ed. But nevertheless, second place is all that it's going to be for him. The winners, though, of that game, they're going to be looking for height again every single one. They're going to be thinking, we can do this every game. Let's just keep doing this. Why don't we just replicate this?
And I think with them getting that victory royale at the end of that one, took a shockwave hammer to the leaderboards. Analysts break down everything that we just saw.
Thank y'all so much. Game number 3, going the way of Rhythm in 20. I mean, for them, they were just blessed by RNGs. As he came down and said, the storm circle's coming. You built out. Don't worry, it's going back. You ain't got to do nothing. Oh, you built just high enough to keep everyone else with shockwaves away. They had it all.
Honestly, Zeke, they might have had a better view of the lobby than any of us here watching.
True.
Because they were just chilling from the very start, I believe, of the second zone. They might have even been in first moving zone when they were actually able to build their empire up in the sky, Jenny. And we just saw they literally just got to walk it down, continue placing builds, and there was just so much traffic happening down below that they managed to stay just high enough to where the shockwave hammers actually couldn't reach.
Yeah, we saw that too. Endgame, they tried. They did try to take the height, but you know what? Like you said, it was the perfect amount of height, just high enough to where you cannot contest it, and it set them up, again, for success. Clutching the victory. Amazing.
I feel like I would have almost hated to be Rise in that moment, because we got the shockwave up from his perspective, right? He goes to shockwave up, looks up, and is like, I see you're still way up there. All right, well, I'm out of builds. Best of luck. But still, hey, those little things, right? Being just high enough to make sure those shockwaves can't touch you. Really good. We take a look at our leaderboard. Spades, Chimp also falling down, but still putting on quite a performance, right? They're still trying to hold themselves in that top 5.
Of course, but that finish was just enough to put 20 in Rhythm into the top 10, a 23 placement jump. That is actually insane to think about because, again, we keep emphasizing on the fact that individual matches are definitely influencing these leaderboards pretty heavily, but that's still absurd, Jenny.
Yeah, that is so true. Like you said, getting a victory, putting you up that many placements, it kind of gives you a little bit of like relief. It's like, all right, I got the victory today. Still, I just need to keep showing up and doing what I can do. But, you know, again, like it's a little bit less pressure taken away now that they already, you know, had the victory in their pocket.
Of course, and circling back, Spade, Chimp, we've been seeing them have pretty solid performances throughout weeks 1 and 2, and here in week 3, they just don't disappoint. They know how to secure their points, and despite all of the traffic and congestion that they keep encountering, we still see numerous instances of Chimp just managing to close it out.
Yeah, I mean, some of these duos, kind of like what you kind of mentioned, Jenny, you just need one game, right? One game, especially in the format, will absolutely change everything for you and your duo. And it'll give you that fighting chance, right? Now it's just about consistency. Can we keep doing this? Can we keep the strategy up? Can we keep refining ourselves to hopefully make it in that top 5, 10, whatever?
No, yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, the fact that they were able to say, all right, we figured out, like, endgame, we have an issue with these hammers. What are we going to do to put ourselves in a position that they are not a problem for us? And they did that so flawlessly. I would not be surprised if we see some other teams try to take that same tactic into future games.
So good. Well, Fortnite fam, with 3 games left to go, guess what? Special surprise time. We have them all the time. We have an interview with none other than Nick A30. What is going on? It is so good to see you, Nick. How you doing?
How's it going? I've been fantastic. I've been watching a little bit of the stream, and it's been amazing. So I'm happy to be here.
We are happy that you are here with us. So, Nick, you've been watching the games. With all these duos, they have to put up, man, today is that kind of day for them. Is there anybody you kind of have eyes on? Anyone you think can kind of walk away with the win today?
Yeah, Clicks is my favorite family-friendly streamer. I love watching him. He always brings the action. Zeke, I saw you hyping up Miro earlier on stream. I was actually going through the Legends Landing creative map and saw Miro's plaques. He's got what it takes. Bizzle and Blake, too. I played with them in Tifu's zero-build tournaments. He's got such great knowledge of rotations, and I think they have really good chances.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, you know so much about a lot of these players, just given the fact that you have so much competitive history yourself. And as somebody who's such a prevalent member in the scene, of course, but what do you think that would be some of your best advice for some of these duos that are playing today?
Yeah, well, you look at any team that's won FNCS in the past or any tournaments, they all have games that aren't maybe the greatest, but when you don't perform the greatest, it's about never backing down, never giving up, keep those positive vibes up, and you know, I've seen a lot of people do that and keep their same mindset, and they're able to win it. I also think like sticking to what you practice is so important. Like when I was in Taekwondo, the #1 thing they told me was to do repetitions over and over. It makes perfect. Instead of switching up strategies, if something doesn't go your way one game, keep doing what you do best and do what got you into the finals. Believe in yourself.
I love it. Practice makes perfect. And Nick always coming in with that amazing mindset of yours. Love it. Yeah. I do have a question though. So we saw recently you collected that Falcon Scout item. Is that one of your favorite items in the loot pool currently?
Yeah, I may have used a little bit of it in Tifu's 100K zero build tournament. It was a ton of fun.
That was a nice heist, by the way.
Thank you. Epic always crushes it when it comes to like a good balance of competitive and also fun. Like that's just the perfect item. And I think, you know, my favorite though is probably the Infinity Blade. I think the chat and I think a lot of the competitive players would love it to come back. So that'd be one of my favorites.
Amazing. And yeah, like again, it was so good to see him play with that. I'll have to try the Falcon Scout as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. We appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the rest of your stream, and we'll catch you later. Nick A30. What a homie. Miss that guy so much. He's the best. Positive. I mean, he just looks amazing. You saw his face. I don't need to say much more on that. But here we go. Only 3 games left to go. Many of these duos are thinking the same thing. What do we need to change? As Nick pointed out, sometimes you just got to do the same. Repetition. Just do what you do.
Hey, halfway point. We're here to see you finish it strong.
Let's get it.
Let's go. Guess what? Game 4. Now, here we go. With 3 games left, who will rise? Who will fall? Let's find out. Game time.
Game number 4 is upon us, the halfway point of the competition. We've already seen a lot of action today, but there is plenty more still to come.
Yeah, and with the battle bus gassed up and ready to go, we're getting right into the action because even Fortnite knows how important this is going to be with the last 3 games. Where you stand on the leaderboard means so much. Some teams already clinched their spot in the finals. We've talked about it. Other teams fighting for an opportunity just to get Surge Week, and others, they don't want to go ahead and even taste what's going to happen, watching it at home with a nice bag of popcorn.
Yeah, look, I know we got a game on our hands, but I do just want to say I love Nick A30. If I see anybody recommending the Infinity Blade come back, I'm going to lose my mind. I ain't having it. Nick, you hear me? I ain't having it. Anyway.
I actually liked it a little bit.
Okay, I don't like you anymore, Jacob. I don't like you. Scope, though, picking up a nice and easy limb to start the game. That's going to be a switch up in the pace, right? Visuals and Scope sometimes having struggles at this POI. We've seen so many 50-50 fights take place there. So when you see it go so smooth, so quick, so easy, it's always favorable for that team. In the case of Users and Polarized, though, we want to see them start to pick up the pace.
Yep. Right out of the gates, 2 straight eliminations. Contested that POI. Down goes Bizzle. Down goes Blake. Throughout the past 2 weeks to get to this point, hey, they were on fire. They were doing great, but their game number 4, not so much. That one comes to an end, but other people's misfortunes is another person's blessing as they get 8 more points to their total.
I'm sorry, that was so comical to me seeing him try to use the SMG from that far away and not hearing anything. Nevertheless, still got better aim than me, so I can't really talk, can I?
You tried it at least. That's all I hope for any duo.
Gotta love a try.
That I have. Yeah, at least try. At least give some effort. Because imagine if he would have got it. That's all I got to say is imagine that. Encrypted and
Not
Ducky.
this game.
I like this. They got a nice split drop over here towards the south. One of them taking the full islands. And Ducky is taking all the houses on the other side.
Yeah, and one of the benefits of that spot is just how much gold you can get. The amount of Oathbound chests that are available to you. You see that so many top teams this season across different regions land that split and find success. Will they be another one to add to that list?
I loved watching this team of Ed and Miro just getting better and better each and every game. And you got to imagine it goes back to that game number 1 where Miro was by himself, giving Ed all the confidence in the world. Chubbs and Bryce got to have all that confidence as well, being so consistent up until this point. You can see in how they're doing it. Chubbs just hunting for those early game surge tags. That way, towards the mid portion, they can focus on getting to their position, focus on getting to the zone, and trying to gatekeep anybody out that they choose.
Yeah, and of course, I trust these guys imperatively, right? We've seen how consistent they've been with their early and mid-game. They've been a constant force in the end-game situations where, you know, we're seeing them run it up time and time again. So I'm not too worried about them when it comes to that. Of course, though, when it does come to end-game, can they be more clinical when it comes to picking up refreshes and claiming layers? That's going to be the difference between them finishing where they are right now in the standings and finishing in first place.
And for a team that finished first place in a game today, Clicks and Donnie. I love watching this Anvil Square because it just goes to show how much resiliency you need in order to get back into the game after these off-spawn fights that drag out. Third parties come in, fourth parties as well. It just gets so hard and frustrating that any normal man can kind of let it bother him. But for Clicks and Donnie and everybody else here, it's not going to phase them too much. Woozy's separated. Donnie goes high and above, trying to land the shots, dropping him down low, right into the hands of Clicks, who's trying to just continue to drop him, pressure him. You can even see him building below to drop him into his own box, and that's where it comes in. Clicks drops him down to his lair and continuing the pressure. Piece control going over. A huge tag to take the shield right off, and Clicks returning back, not letting go, not giving up, keeping the pressure on, even while losing Donnie throughout all this. Both of them are going to go for that refresh and the siphon, but it's Scolds who lands the big shot when it mattered most.
That is a big upset. It felt like Clicks and Donnie had things figured out, but no, they fall here in game 4. And so after a very impressive first 3 games, now a game where they will have to watch just like us for the remainder. Will that derail their tournament, or will they be able to stay resilient mentally and not allow it to fumble the rest of the day? Either way, seeing a team so high in the standings fall that early is never ideal, especially when you're a fan of them.
It's a big moment for Keys and Freeze right here. They need this in order to get their own spot in the finals. Is he gonna get through the box? Freeze, he goes down. Sinks makes him regret his choices. Blue in to save the day again. These guys won't give up either. It doesn't matter if they're the most known. It doesn't matter if they're the biggest superstars. They're not gonna slow down nonetheless. But back to something we saw early on. Eoxy and Swirl going up against scoped visuals. A third party trying to come in the distance, so closing this one in a timely fashion is important for both of these teams.
Yeah, we've seen Swirl and Eoxy in a bunch of really weird situations, these awkward sort of mid-game fights like this one. So we'll see whether or not they have what it takes to beat out visuals and scopes here. Of course, now, you mentioned that third party in the distance, looking to maybe capitalize on the fight and get some easy surge tags. Visuals was very aware of them, and so he tried to get some back, but not necessarily getting the trade that he would have wanted and was favorable.
Really unique opportunity there. Instead of focusing on the team that was above him, he's just focusing on the big picture, which is Storm Surge, as Kanata and Agers immediately rotating, leaving their POI, trying to get themselves the best spot in the zone as possible. We got a little bit of a north shift, and that's why they're trying to go to try to gatekeep every single team below them out. As D-Roller and Jackson in another fight right here against Hide and Seek and Cooper. Cooper's too far out. He has to go ahead and close the distance rather quickly, and I think he's going to get there just in the nick of time, but I might have cursed him. He goes down, but a dunk from Cooper's teammate, Hide and Seek, to go ahead and make it into a 1v1 situation. D-Roller's now just trying to get the pieces all around and take control altogether, and he does so back-to-back, boxes him like a fish. Hide and Seek can no longer hide as D-Roller continues to chase him down.
Hide and Seek almost getting put in a whoopty right there. D-Roller, he's feeling it right now. But can he close things out? He needs to connect, and he will. That was clean. I stand. D-Roller, I stand. Lovely stuff.
That was smooth. That was smooth from D-Roller, really saving the dig. And Jackson didn't even go down, so that's a quick revive right back into the game. Just like Iamzo and Rise, big games, great consistency so far, 172 points. And throughout the past 2 weeks, we have both been saying it time and time again. Oh my God, the shots Rise is putting in, it's like he's raining from below. But what I'm talking about there is this is one of those teams that where you just need to give them a chance off spawn. They're going to rise to the top of the leaderboards. They're going to cause a ton of disruption in the lobby. And with visuals down, Scope getting chunked out, that's a huge amount of disruption into the game there. And they're on the chase. Shockwaving up, trying to make this one look easy. Scope getting enough HP, using as much flashes as possible to try to build himself some stability here as he continues to back down. I love the pressure from Eoxy and Swirl, trying to strike while the iron's hot, but somebody else is nearby. Another team looming in the distance, trying to take advantage. That's Chimp, that's Spade. If Eoxy and Swirl don't watch out, they could be on the receiving end of some hurt.
Yeah, they are being so patient about it as well. Chimp and Spade, try not to make any sudden movements. Keep their position hidden. And if the opportunity falls into place, that could be huge. I don't know if Eoxy just spotted them there, and he did. Yep, Eoxy saw them. And so the surprise attack won't come through. Nevertheless, though, there is still a big opportunity here for Chimp and Spade to find something that can boost them and catapult them up above in the standings. Of course, some of their biggest competitors, Clix and Donny, have fallen, and so there is a chance for them to change their current position in the standings this game.
Teams that know when to pick their battles here as Eoxy shields him yet again. Just hunts him down. Doesn't want to let 4 points slip through their fingers at this stage in the game. We know how important the implications of the leaderboard will play out at the end of this one. As Macwood looking good, looting up along with Threats, putting themselves into tip-top shape. Not too much to worry about as the zone continues to pull north, a little bit west as well. They have a bunch of static launch pads they can use to their own to keep themselves alive. And with Miro getting shoved down towards the low ground, Ed a distance away from Script and Haji, this would be the perfect time to try to pounce. Will they do it though?
Oh, that is always the question everybody wants to know. With Ed and Miro in the form they're in, they're not necessarily a team you want to be fighting. Of course, Miro had a crazy amount of limbs last game.
These are those moments for a team like them. This decision right there for them to either engage or disengage can really decide if they get first place or not. One bad game at this stage can really hurt so much with how consistent our top competitors are. And for Walkers and Vert, they already had a little bit of a stumble in the previous game, so they're looking full steam ahead. We know how aggressive, we know how easily they could take over a game at a moment's notice.
Bryce and Chubbs. It's not going to be the easiest of games for them. You guys maybe can't see the zone in the bottom right, but they obviously do have a ways to go. They have the maximum possible distance to move to be able to get to the safe zone. They're all the way down in the southeastern zone. It's all the way in the northwest. And so they're going to have to rotate alongside a bunch of teams if they're to make it into the zone in a safe position.
All while in the back of their head, Storm Surge being a little bit of a threat and a worry. That's why you see a lot of teams while rotating, trying to put the shots, especially the max rotate that you talked about. 20 in rhythm, already off to a hot start. 2 eliminations, 400 above the threshold. This is how you carry momentum from a victory royale into the next game.
Speaking of momentum, is Miro still got his fingertips hot? Is he gonna come through and do what he did so well last game?
85 above the damage threshold for them. It's still very, very early on. They don't put all their eggs into one basket. They're trying to loot up. They're trying to make sure they have enough resources. Meanwhile, still going for Surge as well. Fazo and Stacky trying to do the same thing. A little bit of separation between the two. But with Stacky being outside of zone, Fazo is inside of zone, setting themselves up for a spot for safety. The only question is Stacky going to be able to rotate in time as he continues to try to look. Spots out Chimp and Spade into the distance. Probably calling out to his teammate as well. Possible opportunity for them to get Surge. Acorn and Gold trying to rotate all the way from the Slappy while being 452 above the damage threshold. they're looking to have a much better performance in these next 3 games. So, see the rotation coming through, and they're finally going to find their spot with a little bit of height, a little bit of elevation to work with before they set up their box. And as we keep talking about a northwestern zone, it's still going to be that stack side that they're after, and that's why you see those big bush bombs going down.
Of course, here we have a team who I'm sure many people want to give their plaudits, but not the brightest of starts to the day, and just 18 above is not a very strong position by any means, especially when they are taking shots from every which way over towards Breakwater Bay. Clarity G sitting just up above them on the top of this hill. That might make things all the more difficult for them if they have ambitions of moving from this current position. If they do choose to just stay here, though, they may be fine.
And he's trying to sneak up on Bryson Chubbs, but they spot that one out from a mile away. But third party coming in. Everybody in this position being pressured. Count, Storm Surge as well. Splash is coming out for Bryson Chubbs. They're trying to keep themselves alive, trying to keep themselves topped off as well, as Nosh is there trying to break through. Piece control is going to be important. They don't have very much to work with Chubbs is getting chopped down low, just a sliver of HP. A huge shot by Nosh. A perfect opportunity for them to try to get 2 more eliminations, but Gary comes in, takes down Nush and Not. Really playing party pooper to this bunch as Chubbs and Bryce still under pressure. And this is a huge opportunity for Gary to try to take advantage. Up and over, downs yet another player. Sentinel is going to go down, so it ends up in a 1v1 situation here. And with a knock already happening, that siphon's only a matter of time. So Gary has plenty of time to work with to try to finish off Chubbs, and that's where you see him boxing him in, trying to take control of the pieces and the layers, but I think he's going to get out just in the nick of time. Chubbs knows the resources aren't there. He doesn't have too many seconds to work with as Gary just backs down yet again.
Oh, Gary, you saw what he was going for, and it was a impressive attempt at that, but Chubbs was ready and waiting and connected with the all-important shot.
He just needed to stay alive.
That's all he needed.
He just needed to stay alive. 5 more seconds is all it took. He edits in, and that's a decision right there that he will never make that mistake again. Never in his life will he make a mistake like that. Peeking when you're up on Surge, your opponent is basically living on a prayer, especially when he rewatches that one. That's a lesson learned as Chubbs finds. Oh man, what a find. Bandages, med kits.
Campfire.
All he needs is s'mores, and he got himself a great day.
A great day indeed, and still a chance to stay in this game and continue the run they've been on.
Mac winning threats. Good consistent run for them as well. Continuously looking for Surge, trying to stay 1 step ahead of the curve. The rest of the lobby pulled a little bit more northwest again, and that's why they're just trying to set themselves up where they think most of the players are going to try to rotate from. That's where they're going to try to either weaken them, get their Storm Surge. Spade gets a huge amount of HP chunked out. Scold looking like he's about to go down, but a huge backfire, taking down both Chimp and Spade. Woozy and Scold are going to be one of those teams that are just ruining everybody's games here as they're trying to make a run for themselves.
Woozy and Scolds. We've seen how many times they've had to deal with Clicks and Donny in this game, or in this lobby, sorry. But in this game, where they don't have to worry about them, they finally have some room to breathe. They'll make their way into zone. Will they be able to capitalize on this currently way down there in the standings, but still plenty of potential to rise with a good game here. Chubbs is going to have to hope that Joji and Rokane aren't in their normal aggressive mood and looking to catch somebody out, because if they are, he is only a couple tiles away.
That makes traveling on this stack side of the zone so hard. Even if you have a shockwave hammer, you still got to take it step by step, inch by inch, having to use a lot of resources to make sure you get there. Rokane and Joji don't even know Chubbs is just 1 box nearby, and you can see him biding his time, trying to peek at the perfect moment. And it does look they might have spotted him out, trying to use that pile of leaves, as much cover as possible. You see the augment where he takes out his mythical tactical pistol out, and even celebrating it. I know you like that emote.
Yeah. I'm not gonna promo myself here, don't worry. Joji and Rokane are gonna move towards the zone. Still have a bit of time to go. Of course, Chubb's still there in the background. And as he makes his move, they might be able to look and catch him out if they do look back. Cold is only a tile away in front of them, and so they need to be careful. They actually get a drop down, which isn't too bad, but they need to be very cautious of the team who is literally sharing that box with them. Cold and Acorn see a knocked body in the side, like, we want a bit of that action, and Hurricane now actually gonna suffer as a result of it. Joji left alone in this one.
Doing everything he can, just backing down Cold.
He has the body, he has Hurricane, so he might be able to get the res there.
That was a huge shot. Cold and Acorn know that the player's still weak. They know it's only one as they go right in and finish that one off. Sending Hurricane and Joji back to the lobby as the Yamzone Rise start their climb to the top, trying to gain high ground, but fourth zone a little bit too soon, but they're trying to set themselves up right now, so that way they can probably shockwave to the next side of zone, get the front side to steal it away from a lot of these teams, but they hear Stacky down low. They know that player's there. They're trying to take advantage while they can, but instead, Yamso just finds the loot. He's trying to take what little reward that he can and set himself up.
What do we have here? You can see Cold and Acorn. The moment they realize, hey, we ain't letting you guys get that res, better think twice. And maybe now a redemption game for this duo as Cold and Acorn, who, again, for people who maybe haven't been tuned in all of this season, they were one of the biggest favorites in NA East coming into FNCS, and it just hasn't quite gone that way for them so far in the competitions. And here in week 3, maybe a chance to properly announce themselves to the rest of the lobby.
The 16-time FNCS finalist, Kanata. I feel like he's probably one of those prolific players yet to hold the axe of champions, but hey, this could be his season. Already going to be in the grand finals of the FNCS Major 1. He just needs to be able to seal the deal, and I think that's why you see him and Agers playing so hard, testing themselves, because they know that finals lobby is going to be just as hard, if not harder, so every single second you can get to practice matters. As Chubb's peeking through the cone, trying to gather all that information. Does he know that Kanata and Agers are that close nearby?
Oh, yeah, man. If anybody's close by to D-Roller in the form he's in this game, they might have a couple issues on hand. D-Gent in the distance is going to fall at the hands of Macwood, that is, and so D-Roller not able to pick that one up. Jackson with him as well. Ed and Miro, though, still alive, still moving. But unfortunately for Ed, he's moved into the wrong spot as our player's looking at him, and HP is going to be sparse right now. If he can create some space and get some time, he does have the means to get his HP and shields back up.
But because of that pressure, you can see them expend a lot of resources, a lot of mats. But luckily for them, they have time and they have the high ground to go ahead and figure out what they want to do next. But that's going to be a far pull away from them into a stacked front side of the zone as Chubbs, it's a solo, still trying to put the pressure there. Storm Surge still being active in this lobby, and Chubbs doing a good job of staying above it. 258. Bouncing around, trying to find himself that sweet spot, something to work with here in the situation. Forced down low just a little bit, but for him, it's not too much of a worry because he still has that Shockwave Hammer as Yamzone Rise trying to top themselves off. They look like they need a refresh, and they need it bad.
Yeah, they need one desperately in this game. It's not going to be enough with what they have right now. And so, with desperate times call for desperate measures, what are they going to have to do? Cold and Acorn, though, not maybe the optimal hammer there for Cold, but nevertheless, they will still be able to start making their way on towards zone. Chubbs, though, again, not necessarily having the cleanest of rotations there. But nevertheless, even as a solo, still in this game.
Really making magic happen here. Yamzone Rise trying to knock out the door, but they have to rotate too, so they have to really disengage out of this one. You can see them setting themselves up with one Shockwave Hammer between the two. They have to think outside of the box here, but still finding a way to stay hip to hip and travel to the front side of zone. But if you look at the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Macwood and Threads. This could be their moment to have that pop-off performance I was asking for.
And that's exactly where Macwood wants to be. It's where he's always wanted to be. And as they're picking up the limbs here, it's going to be a good game for Macwood and Fretch. You've got to think but can they hold on? We've seen so many times different teams looking good in this position, but not managing to do the business, to finish the job. Rise cannot finish the job there. He's going to leave Iomzo alone in this one. And you can see where he's sitting right now. He's hoping that somebody will just walk into his sights and give him the freest elimination ever. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, so he's going to have to get creative.
Cold and Acorn trying to do the same thing. You can see Cold holding the covers, Acorn splashing them up, making sure they know that they have enough shield and HP to make this rotation happen. As Chubbs, he gets bounced out, going to the front side of zone, sacrificing some HP to give himself a little bit more safety at the front side, looking up, trying to catch somebody slipping, dropping him down to his box. He's looking for a refresh. He knows that his end is inevitable if that one doesn't come to fruition, but his patience is key here as Cold finds an elimination on the reciprocal, catches him slipping, spots a few other players on the other side of that cover, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Bypass everybody, get to the front side, and continue to look back.
Things are finally looking on the up for this team. They're finally getting into their rhythm, but what is that going to lead to? Chubbs, I don't know how he's managed to stay alive. There's actually players having fights right above him, and he's only in a wood cone. It's not like he's invisible here, but nevertheless, he's holding his patience. The trigger finger is phenomenal from him, and he's going to use the hammer just to sort of move his way on out there, out of the way. No more players now in his vicinity, in his box. I actually decided maybe I want to get right back into the action. He's only got the 0 builds, and so he has to hit something massive.
It's going to be a real test for him to figure out how much longer he can survive in a situation like this. Ultimate low ground, still peek and choose, and gets out of the lobby as Pump is going to be the one alive here in the situation like this. Kanata and Agents, they got a hill to climb, but they're trying to get to the front side. Macwood and Threads from 7th zone to 8, trying to hold on and force everybody down below that mountain. This is a huge opportunity for them, but they don't have a ton of pressure to put out.
Yeah, and you can see just how aggressive Threads is getting, and there's a reason why there's teams like this one right here in the midst of fights all on these layers. Thatch doesn't have Pamstu with him, and so having to resort to some of his key solo play, Acorn and Cold, they're going to keep it moving. Though there is a player, or a team, sorry, I should say, on this layer that they have to worry about. That's going to be Trashy and Pump, but they're going to pick up the eliminations just before they can, stealing them away, and then maybe even looking to initiate a fight onto them. The hammer play knocking everybody up and around. Macwood and Threats, can they hold on to height? Cold's going to make it a bit more difficult for them, and Macwood actually falls, and so all of a sudden, things looking on the upper hand. Oh, Macwood, oh my goodness, Acorn now in the mix of things, and he's falling into a box he shouldn't have.
And it's going to be a great opportunity for the solos to really take advantage. Threats trying to stagger himself towards the back, probably picking up loot that Macwood left behind. Agers, does anybody know he's a solo? He could steal away this game. Trashy and Pump, the only duo left alive. Caskers, the solo, losing clarity just moments ago, getting themselves into the top 3. They got him knocking on their door, though. It's Trashy. He comes down. Shockwave galore. Out goes Threats. Out goes Pump. Caskers gets Shockwave hammer outside of zone, and Trashy and Pump take the game.
Trashy and Pump doing it in style. He didn't even have to use his actual shotgun or AR or anything to pick up the final elim. He just said, look, let me show you what my Shockwave hammer can do. Nicely done there as well to clean up the game. In those final moments, Jacob, we didn't know who was going to be able to take it. It was a mix and match between everybody in that lobby, but it was Pump and Trashy who came out victorious.
From Desi in game 1 last week, Mr. Savage all over social media, and now Trashy. That Shockwave hammer is something a lot of people just don't expect to happen. And you can see a thumbs up and then right back to business. Week to week, this man knows the job is not done. That's only game 4.
That might be the first time I think we've seen in the FNCS somebody do a no-look to finish a game and win it out like that. That is clean, that is stylish. That is exactly what I want to see from a team who we all have very high expectations of, and they are delivering right now.
Yep, and with another game going down to the wire, tossing everybody into a washing machine, into the dryer, tumble dry, everybody's getting tossed around, and it's only 3 people that can lead us to the promised land. Zeke, Vivid, Taco, where do we stand?
Thank you guys so much. Another fantastic game. And very quickly, let me introduce Vivid, who's going to be hanging out with us for the last set of games here on the day. My goodness. The Shockwave hammer, no look, fade away. All right, see ya, you know?
Man, that was like the one point I was going to make, right? All the analysts that I had in my mind right there, it was all about the no look. Levin stole it, Zeke stole it. I don't even know. I'm at a loss of words after watching that.
I mean, I might as well double down on it at this point just to make sure that you're the only one that doesn't get a chance to say it. Yeah, that fade away was honestly tough.
Well, we'll take a look at our standings and see how things are kind of shaking up. Remember, we do still have 2 games left to go, so nobody panic. Everything's okay. But take a look how people are moving up and down that leaderboard. Miro and Ed the Great to the second. Still looking good, right? Have it move. Bryce as well alongside Chubbs. These guys are staying strong. Adrian and Kanata, though, Threats and Macwood, these guys are looking for that top spot.
A lot of big development that game there, Zeke. I mean, the biggest thing for me had to be that at one point in time, there was like 4 teams battling out for high ground, it seemed like, right? Unfortunately, though, for some of those teams, they didn't all get it. Macwood and Threats did come out on top of that. But while all that was going on, right, Kanata and Adrian taking full advantage of that in the mid ground.
They really just made sure to keep everything kind of all mixed up there in the mid-ground, because we saw a lot of congestion actually starting to take place from those teams that were trying to work their way through that hill pool from the moving zone. It's really just a tough spot for a lot of these teams to be in, but for Kanata and Agers, they just made it look so smooth.
I mean, smooth is definitely the right word to use there, because, I mean, look at this. Another example of them making it into the end game, having no eliminations, but every single game, they are still fine on Storm Surge. And the biggest talking point there for me is that, you know, they're landing over at faulty splits, and there's like nobody landing around them. And we've seen in the past weeks that they were so reliant on their Storm Surge coming from those teams around them. But in these games, they have to make those early rotations, but they're still finding the damage done. So I love how dynamic this team could be on a whim's notice.
Exactly. You would expect it to be a tough position to be in, but regardless of the circumstances, they still managed to make it work. And I remember even spanning all the way back to week 1, you discussing, I want to see more elims from these guys, and they're still managing to find them when it matters most.
I was wrong. They don't need them.
They don't need them. That's right. There you go. Another duo, Acorn and Cole, breaking into that top 10, right? With 2 games left to go, they're finally saying top 5, top 1, that's what we want to strike.
Levin was talking about, you know, coming into the season, everybody's like, that's the duo. That's the one right there. And, you know, throughout these weeks, they haven't necessarily been showing us their best performances, but maybe they're saving them for finals. But this game right here specifically, I believe it was 7th zone. Look at these mats. How on earth do you have that many materials? And this just led them straight into the end game. But they were still not afraid, even with so many materials, to go for some of these eliminations.
But it's still kind of crazy to think about the fact that Cold, he might have those 10 splashes, and it still is just so problematic in terms of finding opportunities to actually get a breathing room space to utilize them. It kept them going for a little bit longer, but it's just amazing how fast your resources are actually expended throughout these moving zone territories.
It was so close, Taco Bell, right? Like, it looked for a moment right there at the end. That shockwave hammer play came out. He went out onto the zone, found a huge shot on the Macwood, and Threats literally looked like he had 1 HP. Ended up finding the shot on the Acorn. That was, I mean, it was just so close, right?
I was going to say, I don't even know if it was intentional either, but that was a little bit clean as well, where you had the back-to-back bounce off of the wall. I mean, whether the stars just aligned for him in that instance or not, it still just looked awesome.
It's all skill, right? That's clear. It's clearly skill. That's all.
At least when it works out.
Yeah, when it's not me, it's clearly skill. And then once again, we have to highlight Trashy, right? A victory royale in one of the coolest ways we've seen on the day. Remember, we had a chance to talk to these guys at the very start of the show, right? And you could tell Trashy was given maybe a little bit of short answers, but now I can tell why. They're locked in. They are so focused on what they have to do today.
I mean, seemingly so in this game. Trashy Pump. No, honestly, I didn't even see their names, right? They weren't making any, like, big waves in this end game or anything like that. Just kind of thriving throughout and letting all that chaos into that we just talked about between Acorn and Cold, Macwood and Threats. And they're like, oh, listen, all these teams on high ground, they want to fight for it. We'll join the party and we'll just take the victory royale.
And I think what helped them slide by there is the fact that this zone honestly pulled right into their backyard. So they made sure to make the most of it.
And just keep in mind, even with a performance like that, as stylish as it is, they're still not in that top 10, right?
Wow.
So,
yeah,
things to consider here with 2 games left to go. We just need another performance like that, and we could hit that top 10. We now have seen time and time again, you just need one good game to change everything.
But as far as Trashy and Pump are concerned, I mean, we've seen multiple instances of it. I'm sure they're not the only ones looking for it.
Zeke's making it sound easy, guys. It's not. This is an FNCS lobby, so, you know, give these guys a break.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so much talent here in NA East. A lot of these players are feeling that, right? It just kind of takes that moment. I don't know, like, to me, it seems like sometimes players kind of get in their own heads, but when they kind of let go, we get moments like that. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot to think about, right? 3rd week of the FNCS. Some of these teams are literally fighting for their spot in Grand Finals and Surge Week, so we'll have to see how this plays out.
Oh, man. Well, guess what? Only 2 games left to go. How will this all conclude? Will we get more shockwave fadeaways? Let's find out. This is game number 5.
4 down, 2 to go. And with the pressure of your season coming to an end, it comes down to these final moments.
But I don't want to hear about pressure, Jacob. I said it at the start of the day, and I'm going to say it now. You have to deliver. If you want to be in the big boy lobbies, you got to perform at your best. And a lot of these players in this lobby have shown us they can do that. For the ones who maybe quite haven't, you still do have time. We have 2 more left on the way, and 2 that I'm very excited to see.
Yep, and where you're at in the leaderboard matters so much, but you don't have time to think about it. The battle bus is ready. Game number 5 is upon us, Levin. And I gotta ask you, depending on where you're at in the leaderboard, if you need that spot in Surge Week, do you ramp up your gameplay? Do you hunt for those eliminations, or do you play to your plan?
If I'm Suscript, I just try and win off sports. That's my first priority. That's my first line of thought. Sinks is gonna go down, and so that makes that somewhat possible. And I feel like we've seen this a number of times where Blue is now in a situation where he has to try clutch 1v2. Will Blue do it? The question that is yet to be answered and will finally be answered. It's unfortunately not going to be possible because Haji and Suscript are on a tear when it comes to this off-spawn battle.
Yeah, you can see the bait and switch come out. Suscript taking the brunt of the damage at first. And then Haji going in. Users in polarized. Not that same off-spawn that you would expect since the last game. Bizzle and Blake trying to change things up. But over here, Rexo and Rapid, they're going to end up in a 1v1 situation. I think Rexo is going to try to bait out the revive. Rapid does have the height, dropping down low onto the steps, ends up toe-to-toe, takes out Rexo, and saves the day for him and Serves and their journey throughout the rest of the day.
That was nice. Nicely done. And of course, the key factor to that is that you get a chance to play out a game together as a duo. And if the game's running out, that becomes all the more important. Acorn and Cold, we were waxing lyrical about them. And an impressive last game, one that pushed them into the top 10 understandings. Can they even push higher to close things out? Of course, a team that we were going to expect to see in the FNCS final. But nevertheless, going out in style would definitely be the way to do it. Over 40 though, trouble in paradise, Jacob.
Yep, that was Agers who went down to Users. On this side as well, you saw Rokane and Joji go down. But Faulty splits, and with so many teams contesting, I would expect nothing less than all-out action to really start it off. But Kanata is really going to be tested yet again. I talk about these little moments, even though he already has a spot clinched. It's all about that practice. He's a 16-time finalist and going ahead and trying to win that big one. As Walkers and Vert, they're trying to give themselves as much loot as possible. They haven't caught that same fire that we've seen him in weeks practice, but with 2 games left, there's plenty of time to get themselves on a roll. Polarizing Users. We saw this one go down right out of the gates between Blake and Bizzle. A few more seconds, maybe even a minute later than last time, but the end result's going to be the same. Button heads, making sure somebody doesn't make it out of this one. As the big bush bomb already down, Polarize has to pick and choose whether he wants to peek, get into the box. As Blake is firing from below, the shots are there. Polarize just too much to go ahead and take down Blake, leaving Bizzle by himself. They just bomb rush into the box. Bizzle and Blake out again.
That one felt personal, man. Polarizing Users just tearing it up there. And of course, no love lost with that celebration at all. Macwood and Threats over at the Lonely Labs. And a lonelier day at the labs, because typically across these weeks, you've seen them have to fight off spawn here a couple times, but in this game, that won't be an issue.
Interesting to see what they're going to be able to do now that they are uncontested. Does this switch up their game plan? Lack and Surge as Bylox ends up against Kanata. Sneaky play, trying to strike while the iron's hot. He knows the player's weak, not wanting to let the splashes or any heals go off. Kanata is on the chase, but he reunites the Users. Kanata ends up in the box anyway, and he ends up back to the lobby. Luckily for them, they had a great start.
The mad thing is, yeah, when he walks into that box with 2 players, I think to myself,
he can still do it.
Yeah, like in most instances, you go like, yeah, he's about to go down. But for a moment, I thought, this is Kanada we're talking about here. Nevertheless, they're going to have to hit the drawing board, come back stronger for the last game. As we switch gears, though, Andrew, Square, Clicks, and Donny, they're looking for revenge. Of course, their run here was cut short in Game 4. But now a chance for redemption against a team that did it. Skulls is on the receiving end of some Clicks pressure. His teammate Ruzi is going to look to try and redeem him. And now A 2v1 situation without Matze, he's going to need Donny to come to the rescue fast.
You can see him immediately give up that high ground, knowing he cannot continue to challenge it. Uzi and Skulls just trying to use their numbers. Donnie gets chopped down. Takes some fall damage as well, along with shield. Uzi back-to-back shots, making things happen for him and Skulls as the Donnie and Clicks continuously fall down to the low ground. They separate him, and they take out Donnie. Now it's all up to Clicks yet again, who disengaged long ago, trying to pick up some scraps because right now he's lacking shields, and Woozy and Skulls are on the hunt, and they've already spotted him out. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, and after getting picked apart here in the earlier games, it looks like Woozy and Skulls have finally got their number. Another game where Clicks and Donnie go down, and a bit of a taunting there, you'd say, from Woozy. I don't know if that's going to go down well with the Clicks fans. I'm going to start rising in a second if he doesn't cut that out. Aoxy and Swell, I can assure you they're not here to bowl. They want to do a bit more than just that. Biolox and User might find out what exactly that is as Aoxy starts to take some shots again in one of these scrappy fights over towards this Faulty Splits area.
I like how he's just trying to top himself off. He built himself a little bit of a cushion. Those pieces are his. He knows if they're going to try to push through. He does have the time. Aoxy trying to get an additional angle. But on the other side, Moon and Braze just waiting in the wings for Aoxy or anybody really to step through that door. But nobody really taking that one just yet. Aoxy and Swirl hears those players that were once enemies disengaging off of this one. And then Braids and Moo, they're slowly but surely sneaking up into this exchange. Aoxy gets spotted out. 50. His shields just go right out the window. That was a huge double tag by Moo and Braids to make that teamwork and take him down altogether.
Yeah, he didn't see it coming. He had no clue at all. And it's a shame they weren't actually able to clean him up because it was a well-timed thing that they had going on there. But nevertheless, for Moo and Braids, there is still plenty of hope in this game. You've got to think, though, that it's probably some way away from Faulty with just how many teams. Like, oh, it feels like half the lobbies at Faulty Splits right now.
And this is just a massive switch up of zones because of that. We got a southeast zone hovering a little bit over Faulty, which kind of explains why so many teams are kind of using that as an opportunity. There's so much time before a zone begins to push them in. Chimp and Spade, they got a little bit of that luxury as well. They're already on the south side. For them, it's just gathering up that surge because they know rotation isn't necessarily the most important thing for them right now because of how close it actually is. They just want to get their surge, set themselves up for the long game.
I like how you said we have a south side zone there. It's a bit of an understatement, mate. Half the zone is just water. It's not even on the map. Faulty Splits is like the only place people can even be, it feels like, which is why there are so many people there, right? But yeah, we'll see how this one develops. It's a good chance that because of the nature of the zone, the next zone, the second one, is going to pull towards that Faulty Splits area. There aren't many areas it can go to unless we're going to have a full water zone, which again is just not happening, is it?
Does that hurt or help any of the teams that are already in, specifically Faulty? Obviously, they're already fighting for their surge, so it's not going to be a worry for them. But anybody that might have that split drop, do you think it pulling towards them this far towards the south helps?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, I think it can. Especially, like you said, if you're a team that has your surge figured out, you don't need necessarily any more in terms of materials. You can farm up and whatnot. You should be pretty good. And of course, sitting in a position that's going to be very prominent for the rest of the game is never too bad of a thing.
And with 2 chances left, this is game 5. Next one, the final one, game number 6. You can kind of see the picture be painted. Yeah. Hey, you didn't think it would go a little bit more south, but guess what? It just went a little bit more south. So all those teams at Faulty are now even going to have to rotate. Luckily for them, at least, they're rather close by. But for Yamzo and Rise, they're trying to get their surge so that way they can focus on their rotation. For them, it's gonna be a little bit of a journey, not too much that they can't handle, but when it comes to surge, they don't want to have to rotate and go for those shots.
Yeah, you can see here some of the scrappiness that takes place along the edge of the zone line with how far it's been of a pull. A lot of these players are gonna have to make use of each other if they want to try and get surge.
Sorry to see the Jelly Angle augment from Shonye and Polo. Shadow bombs coming in. So picking and choosing wisely to try to add different elements to their game plan. So it's going to be very, very important for them to really kind of utilize the position that they're in right now, the little bit of water. But I say that very loosely because half the zone's still in water.
Half the zone is still in water indeed. Whoever's controlling the zones this game, they're real jokester, they are. Either way, right, there is plenty more going on in and around the map. And fortunately for us, we have the wonderful Jenny Smiles to fill us in on what Miro's got going on this game.
Thanks, Levin. Yes, so Miro here, they have landed West Citadel, and you can see the storm has pulled very, very south. And they have to make sure that they take care of that storm damage for tags well before getting there. So they have done this here. He's gotten all that damage done, and again, he's using that Chili Chug Splash to run and head to zone.
Yeah, of course, these guys have been so locked in today's games, so consistent in their approach to make it deep into this one. And a large part of that is being able to deal with Surge early on, right?
And I like one thing Jenny pointed out is that Chug Splash, the Chili Chug Splash. They don't have any other rotation, and with how far the zone is actually pulling, I like them really thinking outside of the box, taking the sacrifice in HP, so that way they can try to get to zone as fast as possible. More than half of the zone overall is going to be pretty congested, stacked up with teams as Walkers and Vert trying to make up for lost time. 138 above the damage threshold. It's not going to be the most important thing for them to go after, but you know they have the potential to pop off at a moment's notice, just like Trashy and Pump. 101 points on the up and up. And this is going to be a good opportunity for them to gather their surge. 54 above, but not going to be too much of worry for them because they know how to find the tags that they need.
Yeah, they have been so effective in doing so across all 3 weeks of the qualifiers. Of course, the quick stat there just letting us know they're the only team to actually win in one of the games in every single session that we have watched across these past 3 weeks, which again is a big testament to just how consistent they are and how clued in they are to this season and this meta. The Cascade clarity. The journey into the safe zone is going to be one that is very difficult for them, but not one that they'll shy away from, especially when there are eliminations to be had along the way. The question will be, can they survive the pressure from the players who are sitting on that beach?
I felt bad. They were just trying to go for a swim on a nice summer day in the beach, and you got two sharks in the water just eating them up in the blink of an eye. As Ed and Miro just looking for Pilly's plunder. And I like it because they're already stacked on loot. They're going ahead and taking this extra time. They have their Storm Surge. So they're just trying to really get themselves that bit extra. Right now, they're about 99%. They're trying to give themselves that one bit.
Well, the big thing as well, right, is with the way the zones have pulled all the way towards the very southeast of the map, the entire lobby is literally chilling around faulty splits, right? So many players are there. Where they are, down south of, you know, the fields, they can just swim all the way into dead side of the zone where there's literally quite nobody here in the lobby. And so, again, another game where things are looking set up for them to have a very, very good game if they can execute things well.
Only time will tell at the end of the day. And a team that's looking to kind of solidify the rest of their day with a good game here in game number 5 and possibly another one in the next is Chimp and Spade. One of the more consistent teams we've seen throughout the day. And you can see, just looking back, gathering the information, trying to figure out what that next rotation is going to be for everybody in the game right now. Gathering the information before the rotation comes through is important. You got to see who needs to rotate first. If you can stagger yourself back, and for Yamzo and Rise, they're already in the zone. They're built up, a nice tower, a lot of comfortability for them as they continue to look all around for these teams that have to rotate in from the north, from the western side of the map.
Yeah, they just have to connect with the shots, though. Yamzo receiving into some damage. It's fine, of course, right? They do have the shield keg there, and that at least would have been some incentive for him to overpeak just the slightest for Chubbs and Bryce. Hopefully this game, they can stay as a duo. Of course, we saw Chubbs and his heroics in previous games where he had to stay alive for so long, and he did a brilliant job at that, to be fair. So big shout out to him. But with Bryce by his side, the potential for them to have a big game is just maximized by a large amount.
That's right, Miro and Ed continue to do exactly what he said. They spotted out Encrypted, trying to do the same thing, but Cascade and Clarity hearing all that action. They're low on surge. They're trying to make up for it, barely getting above. Miro and Ed going to be the players on the receiving end of that one, and they actually get encrypted outside of zone.
And the problem with the plan was, you know, in theory, quite an effective one. The problem is, right, is when you have a team like Casca and Clarity sitting up above on the cliff, just holding you, stopping you from being able to swim your way on in, it just makes it so awkward. The good thing is now, though, Clarity and Casca are starting to move because they realize they have to get to zones themselves. And so that will allow Ed and Miro to just use the ridge along the beach to make their way on in. And they're going to have to hope that they can't be spotted by Casca and Clarity. You see there, as long as they stay tucked in against the cliff, the vision of that Clarity and Casca will have of them isn't going to be too significant. And so it just allows them to sneak into zone here. And now they can start building with their brick and the metal to keep themselves secure.
And because it was Caskers and Clarity who initially spotted them out there, take note of where they're rotating to. They're making sure that they keep eyes on those players that are right down below. French-Canadian duo. I love to see them reunite here for FNCS, just the nick of time. It wouldn't be the same without them, let me tell you that much, and setting themselves up for a perfect game. Two different forms of rotation, Shockwave Hammer and the Chili Chug Splashes. All they need to do is continue to push forward. Once they get past 5th, 6th zone, that's when it all comes together as Miro's chopped down, little HP, downed all together. It's Casker and Clarity who dropped down from above. I said their rotation, they were shadowing them through and through.
They were shadowing them, they were watching from above like hawks, but then deciding to drop down in and go in for the fight. That takes some courage, but it pays off. They take down the team that has been an absolute problem for everybody in the lobby so far today. Well played there from Clarity and Casca.
That was well played indeed, but that's why there are that little bit of a dark horse when you least expect them. They're really just gonna take a bite out of you altogether. Pamso and Fatch continuously looking bound. Acorn and Cold box to box with Cam, who's there, and you can see them sacrificing a little bit of HP so that way they can get the scraps necessary to continue themselves. And they have themselves a little bit of a slow side as well. Not exactly the same as Clarity and Casters just have overtaken, but at least it's something to work with.
Cam is one of my favorite solo players to watch, and so I'm sure he'd rather have Jigglyflopper alive with him. But if he could have one of his crazy solo plays, that would definitely be a sight to behold. Of course, with the ways to go to get to zone, it's going to be tough as he makes his way up this hill.
And Acorn and Cold is not a duo I would want to necessarily follow, but I can see he's trying to recycle, really be efficient with his resources. Yamzo and Rise trying to do the same thing. A little bit of separation between the two, but that's just they can easily target out a few different players, and Cam's going to be the one that comes across. And that's what it's going to be hard for Cam to survive. Jackson DeRoller are there. Shadow is there. Hide and Seek trying to sneak his way in. Acorn is there into the distance as well. But Yamzo and Rise see that one coming from a mile away. Immediately Shockwave Hammer getting himself a little bit more comfortability when it comes to the zone.
Comfortability, that sense of safety is key. But when you have D-Roller near you, how safe can you really be is the question as he takes Hide and Seek down. Needs to be careful with Shadow and Sphinx are right here, and they're laying walls, cones, pieces in everybody's boxes, but they need to be careful themselves because there's somebody else on their back. They're never too safe in these lobbies.
They tunnel vision just a little too hard, and a huge flank is going to discombobulate them for a moment. Trying to find some sort of stability here in a situation like this is so important. Even dropping down low into a previous layer that was theirs. On the other side of that one's D-Roller as a solo. Acorn and Cold are trying to chase, take a bite out of that one. Stuck between two different players, and even Pamso and Fatch go down to the elimination feed. Their run comes to an end, and this one is going to be a far pool for at least 5 different players, 3 different teams.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough rotation. Who's going to make the first move?
Shervs is by himself as well. Chubbs and Bryce, 249 points, trying to stay consistent. The decision here to go after a player or try to continue to make it towards the end game for Chubbs and Bryce could be the difference between first place and falling down the leaderboard.
A big opportunity for them, though, to start to gain a lead. If they could have the big pop-off game, we talked about how Chubbs was able to hold on clutch as a solo. As a duo, though, the power they possess is huge. Not greatly above on Surge, and so they're going to have to deal some damage. The good thing is, though, that there are players and they can sort of capitalize on and target. For Frets and Macwood, can we see them look to play for height again? That's where I love to see them. That's when they're in their element. invert. They just need to deliver. They just need to hold on in the key moments.
It's very telling right now to see how patient they're being. It's easy to get antsy in a situation like this with all the action going around, all the duos entering the boxes. But for them, they're just playing slow and steady, knowing the opportunity is going to come sooner or later. Is everybody getting kind of pushed around by the zone? Serves still that solo that's right below Chubbs and Bryce, and almost makes him what he has an apple there. He can 5 HP, and you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Come on, Chubbs.
Is that bothering you that he's not eating the apple?
He eats the apple. I got my bet on him to win the game. Keeping all the doctors away.
Look, it would go a long way. But now imagine he goes down and the difference is 5 HP, right? That's what you're thinking, hold on a minute.
An epic Thunder Shotgun could do just that, 195.
Hey, look, Acorn and Cold don't have the epic Thunder Shotgun, but they do have a Shockwave Hammer. We know how important that is as they move forward throughout this game. As the zone starts closing on their back, they're going to have to use it to start moving on in.
And immediately trying to get to the front side of zone. They're experts in their own mind. You see Macwood and Threats using the aerialist augment, trying to get to the front side of zone and steal away height yet again. You called it yourself. This is one of those teams that you can find on a consistent basis, trying to be the team to play height and immediately target out that second layer. That was Skulls, who got dropped down low. That is very, very important for their success.
But if they want to hold on to it, they're going to have to start to put a distance between them and the rest of the lobby. We know how easy it is to disrupt height with hammers. Got to start to build up and separate itself with a couple layers. Down below, though, Chimp and Spades, there's not much separation between him and a bunch of very hungry players. So he needs to keep on running through, make sure he gets his way into the zone unseen. Chubbs, though, closely following behind Cole. Not able to connect, though. Walkers and Vert, though, are very, very close by.
Yep, 120 below the damage threshold. They're just hoping these players take each other out, so it's not something they have to work with. Macwood did go down. Him and Threats are trying to get themselves back into the game, and the high ground goes on over to Trashy and Pump in the 7th moving zone. They have plenty of resources to work with if they want to try to hold on to it. A Shockwave Hammer as well, as Trashy uses it to get to the front side of zone, and that's going to be huge for them to connect and hold on to that cloud in the sky.
Oh my goodness, Clarity. We know just how effective he can be at this stage of the game, especially with that mythic pistol in hand. And for a moment, I thought it was going to be crazy, but maybe we are starting to see the beginning of a big game for this duo. Trashy and Pump, though, the winners of the last game, they currently sit in the dominant position in this lobby.
Yeah, and for Clarity and Casker, that elimination onto Miro and Ed early on is their life in this one. They got themselves back up. I might have spoke too soon. 1 HP. Clarity gets tagged up in the nick of time. Chili Chug Splash is going out, being used by both of these players, and it's almost like it never happened as they are trying to Shockwave, get to the front side. Bryce was chopped down low, and it's all up to the Chubbs. Pressure is on, finds Duke slipping. A huge refresh and a huge siphon, but he gets greedy, goes for it, and gets taken out.
The loot was a trap that he walked right on into. Yomzo and Rise, though, down below again, trying to claim this layup, but they have teams in their way. I feel like I've seen them in this spot one too many times, but it's just finally going to be the game where they can completely clear things out.
It's going to be a great opportunity as they have ultimate low ground. But talk about opportunity. They run out of resources. They run out of builds. They're trying to look back, catch anybody out of position. Caskers gets dropped. Now it's all up to Clarity to gather as many points as he can. Shockwave Hammer trying to get up and out. Almost narrowly survives, but it was Yamzo who gets the last laugh. Down goes Walker and Vert as well. Stacky, he's trying to do it as a solo, as Fazo was down as well. So many teams losing their duos, forced to play this one out as a solo.
That is so difficult with all these teams trying to move up elevation, blocking each other. Stacky with a big shot onto Rise. That's exactly what he needs to do. Can he pick up Yomzo? The finish comes through. Is he going to hit him? He's trying to flank, and he gets here. Come on, man. That's too easy. You can't let Stacky get that. But he eventually will fall, not before doing a bunch of damage and a couple of bigger limbs.
One of the teams with the biggest ceiling, though. They already have a game on their hands. Trashy and Pump. Can they be the first team to win 2 on the day? It's looking like it. They have the recipe for success. They're putting as much pressure as they can onto the low ground. Visuals gets dropped. Sculpt gets taken out. Braids gets 2. He's trying to make some miracles happen, but he gets taken out as well. It's all up to Suscript as a solo in a world full of duos.
And with Shadow hitting the kind of shots they're hitting right now, you eventually think that Suscript's going to walk right into their trap. And will he have an answer? Sphinx is there waiting. Shadow is there by his side as well. And the shockwave isn't going to be enough to save them. But right is where you want to see Pump and Trashy up again, trying to do the 2-time. Can they do it? Trashy falls, so he's in a bit of trouble. He needs the help of his teammate, but his teammate will come through. Shadows gets taken out, and Trashy and Pump, they're looking for the 2-time. They want to get another one.
They did it. They made it happen. They got separated in that short moment, even the backside of zone. But teamwork makes the dream work. They reunite yet again. Sphinx goes for the play, but it's not enough to overtake Pump and Trashy, who get their second victory royale in the day.
I have no words to describe this duo right now. Excellently done, up above, on height, making things look so easy, Jake.
I'm just looking, I'm waiting. I got to imagine a double thumbs up coming out from them. Just controlling the game. When opportunity struck, they take away height and solidify it through and through. Suskript trying to take it away. He gets denied. Even when push came to shove, Trashy and Pump got separated. Pump wasted no time, reunited, getting the knock on the Shadow, which was very huge and instrumental for the rest of their game.
They make so much fun as well. I'm like you, I want to see the thumbs up. I want to see the reaction if we're going to get one. And again, the double thumbs up. Easy as you like. And right back to business. This is a duo that everybody in this lobby and everybody in NA East should fear going into the final.
Yeah, they have insane amount of potential. Their ceiling is extremely high. It's that consistency week to week that amazes me as well. There's so many different variables for this squad, and they're checking off all the boxes.
Not just consistency, they're seemingly getting better every time, right? Of course, in week 1, 15th, you know, week 2, 3rd. Are they going to finish higher than that today? It certainly looks like it's possible, but the people that can evaluate that the best are going to be the analysts, so we're going to send it back to Zeke.
The back-to-back coming out of Trashy and Pump. And the biggest question for me is we had talked about them not being in that top 10. We have to see, though, there it is. 8 places, 2 games. These guys have now jumped into your top 10. That is what we like to see. As our casters just talked about, they have everything, man. They have every check mark that could be available to you as, are you a competitive player? If yes, check this box. They've got them all locked down.
Yeah, you know what's incredible, Zeke? We've actually played 5 games today. Unfortunately for Trashy and Pump, they didn't actually make it into one. So if you do the math real quick, 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, 2 victory royales. So per thumbs up, we have victory royales, and then also that's 50% win rate right now for Trashy and Pump.
Hey, as far as their performance is concerned, I understand entirely why we keep seeing the double thumbs up by the end of it. But this was also quite the journey for them to make, because this zone pulling towards that southeast side of Faulty Splits, I mean, they're going all the way from the start of North Citadel. And so the fact that they're able to make that rotation, find an opportunity to take over that high ground, maintain the high ground opportunities until they can actually play into those low ground segments. I just cannot say how much impressed, or it's just so impressive watching them go.
I love the fact that you mentioned high ground right there, because again, we've seen one of these games where Mac went in threats. Yeah, they keep going for it right there, though. When they took it, I think it was like first movement zone, he had 40 builds. I was like, Mac would like, surely you can't stay up there for long. And then surely right after Trashy and Pump were found up there, and he had like 100 builds himself. So just so clean for them, and way to ride that out easily.
Yeah, and those final few moments in the last game, like just watching their play, they're so, though there's chaos, because like, man, it was chaotic for just a short bit. They were controlled, right? They got separated, and it was just expertly like, we have to just separate, we meet right here, and then we close out this game. So impressive from the duo. Another duo, Yamzu and Rise, they're moving up, right? They're trying to break into that top 3. They just want to make sure they go straight to grand finals.
Yeah, I mean, listen, low ground's looking pretty solid for them, and another team, surprisingly so. I mean, we're in the 8th zone right now, only 1 elimination. Not sure how they're making it this far, getting no refreshes, no eliminations when it comes to Storm Surge, but, you know, staying on the backside of zone, they know that they can find so many players here that are in a shambles situation, just like they just were right there, find those refreshes very, very easily.
But even when their backs are against the wall, I think that one thing I can appreciate about this duo is the fact that they do such an excellent job of staying together. They don't get lost inside of all that chaos that's taking place, no matter what duos are getting chopped down, whoever's dropping into those low ground areas, because they didn't have many builds to work with, so they're kind of confined to that low ground territory, but they still managed to make it work, just working alongside each other.
Yeah, it is crazy to think there's only one game of Fortnite left here for NA East in week number 3. Remember, we are trying to keep ourselves out of Surge Week and go straight to Grand Finals. For some duos, they are trying to make this top 10 because that's just going to put them in a fantastic spot. Once again, Trashy and Pump, we just can't say enough about y'all. Moving up those 8 places, the question becomes, can they break into that top 5?
You know, it'll be a big question to ask. Like Levin mentioned, they've gone up in placement every single week. But, you know, we just talked about it. Zeke just mentioned it. Surge Week, Grand Finals, one of those teams that's looking good, especially after the performance today. Casker and Clarity G. I mean, 7th place right now on the leaderboard. They got to be chilling on the series point leaderboard.
It's hard for them not to feel good, I think, in this position. But at the same time, knowing Clarity G, having been the individual to set a solo individual Elam's record, I can definitely see them still trying to push for more, because even though they're in the top 10, even though they basically guaranteed themselves, if not guaranteed themselves, into the Grand Finals, you still just want to impose upon the rest of the lobby the reason why you're such a threat.
And the thing that I like the most about their playstyle right now is the fact that they're always looking for opportunities to get to that front side of moving zone, control that low ground, and then look for opportunities when looking back. It's working out so well for them right now.
This is it, my friends.
Oh gosh,
don't say it. Final game. I know, dude. I wish we could just keep doing this forever.
You know what? Like 3 months.
Let's just add 20 million games. Let's keep going. Hey, you know, that's fine. With 1 game left to go, friends, what do we need to do? Right? If we're sitting in a position where we just need to have the game of our lives right now, what are just a few things we could be doing?
You know what? Take some advice from me. I listened to Nick A30, so take some advice from Nick A30. Stick to what you know, right? That's going to be where your home is, right? What you know, the strategies that you have created coming into these weeks, that's what you're going to be the strongest at. Maybe a little few adjustments, but you should be chilling.
Hey, I'm right there with them. I think that a lot of these duos know what's up, and they're ready to close it out.
Well, it's that time. 1 game left to go. So many of these duos have to put on the performance of a lifetime right now to either secure Grand Final spot or a Surge Week spot. Let's do this. One last ride in NA East.
Here in NA East, it is the final game and the final opportunity for these players to try and secure a spot in the finals or in Surge Week. A big game.
Yep, a big game is going to need a big moment. You're going to have to dig deep in a lot of these situations, and where you stand on the leaderboard really dictates how you have to play. If you're a little down on the bottom end of that leaderboard, you may need to mix in eliminations with a high placement. Can you get the job done? The battle bus is ready, Levin. Let's get this Game 6 rolling.
We have not got to wait much longer. We get to see it live and direct. Who has what it takes in such a crucial opportunity to deliver? Already we're seeing a bit of a difference here, because on one hand we've seen Susscript and Haji fight off spawn practically every game, and now the team they were going up against with Blue have decided, no, we're not going to contest you. We want a chance to play out a game.
But the team that will contest, Blake and Bizzle, that's where they're going to be testing almost all day long. A few games here and there, but they were still close by and ended up fighting either way. They're going to leave users by himself, and Blake and Bizzle, they're experts in their own mind. Bizzle, probably one of the OGs, the godfathers of Fortnite, knows what to do in a lot of these situations, even senses that third party coming in, calls and spots it out to Blake to make sure to watch their back, and Blake immediately puts the pressure and focus right back on the user. Ooh. Shield still going down, luckily for him. He still has that slurp juice that was popped to kind of start this one off, and they're just going to take what they have and run. They got that elimination, they got Surge, a little bit of loot to work with, and now they're just trying to make it towards the end game.
Again, for some of the players who may be on positions where they have to just sort of hold on to what they have right now, you might see players looking to play a bit safer, right? Not wanting to overextend or do anything that could put their opportunities in jeopardy for Kick. So, unfortunately, that's going to be the end of the ride for him.
That Surge and Rapid will take him out. T-Roller, once again, looks like he's by himself. 1v2 situation, trying to make magic happen again, but Lightning only strikes once in this scenario as he goes down. User and Vilox are going to get that elimination, get themselves up to tip-top shape. You got series points from first all the way to 50th, so who knows how many points everybody really needs at this stage of the game as Freeze and Keys ends up in a 2v1 situation. They got him boxed. Acro goes down. So much early game action right out of the gate so teams don't fall down to Surge like they have in some previous games.
Yeah, we see it in this final game. You've had plenty of opportunity to adjust to the lobby and figure out what it is. Hasn't quite been working. What it is has been working. There's been a lot working for Bryce and Chubbs. They've been one of the better teams today, if not the best team today, according to the standings at least.
And kind of looking at that leaderboard now, you gotta imagine, no matter how they finish in this game, Threats and Macwood already in the top 40. They secured their spot to grand finals. Susscript and Haji probably trying to look for that early game surge that they're not going to get this time around. Freezy Keys, a little bit of separation between the two, but that's not going to matter. They land a massive shot onto Susscript, and now they're just going blow for blow, editing in at the perfect time. They have both of their opponents weak. It's all about there picking and choosing who they want to go after. Slowing it down, though. They want to get their minis, big pots back on up. Both of these teams are going to find this moment to really stabilize themselves in position, top themselves up before what seems like another inevitable fight between the two. And for Keys and Freeze, they need a big game as well in 29th place. They want to go ahead and get their opportunity to call themselves champions at the end of the day, but it comes down to these final moments. Excalibur Rifle coming in, really being a nuisance, disrupting everybody's focus throughout this one as Haji is just playing that peekaboo, jumping around, trying to keep his opponents guessing where he might strike from. Susscript still putting that pressure with the Excalibur Rifle, just trying to weaken their build so Haji can easily take him away. He already got one piece under his control. Trying to sneak by, going for another one. That one's going to come to fruition. Gets the cone in just in the nick of time as well. Haji doing a great job of biding his time, picking and choosing his battles, even though he has a lot of these pieces under his control already.
Yeah, I like the way he's playing it. For him.
No builds.
Without the builds, there's not much he can really do here now.
It's huge for Keys and Freeze. They're down to 6 builds as well. They already have those 2 eliminations that we saw very, very early on. Excalibur Rifle still destroying a lot of the opportunity here, but Haji picking and choosing. I have no builds to fight this. He's probably telling himself, I got to try to disengage, and you see him finding the resources, leaving his teammate by himself, getting just a couple of resources to work with, and Keys and Freeze don't take advantage of the opportunity. Ooh. Good find from Keys, just in the nick of time. Mythic Tactical Pistol, straight from the Augment. Excalibur Rifle is still being shot and so destructive for 2 players that are looking like they're out of resources as well. Freeze tries to go up and over. He gets knocked down by Haji, who's not done with him just yet. He's trying to break into the box, and their run comes to an end. Where they land on the leaderboards of both the day and the series points is really going to be a mystery.
Yeah, and for Susscript and Haji, they love to win early game fights. They've done it a bunch so far today. Doing it once again. But over here, you see something that's worrying me right now, and that's Miro going down at the hands of Aiden. So that's going to be something we have to pay attention to, because this is a duo who has been, again, a very, very key part of these lobbies. And to see them have a bad end to the day, per se, wouldn't be what they want. So all relies on Ed to come in clutch.
Talk about coming clutch. Acorn and Cold, we talked about them already having their spot in the grand finals. This is just a battle for the POI. When it comes to the actual Major 1 grand finals a few weeks away after Surge Week, we know Booga and Peterbot likely going to land towards North Slappy Shores. Acorn and Cold likely to land towards South. Cooper and Hide and Seek is that other team, that 3rd team in the mix that might be contesting Cold and Acorn, so it's a little bit of a personal battle between the two. Sinks and Blue changing up their drop spot early in the game is not going to stop the inevitable from happening, and that's interactions between everybody else in the game, as that's Blake and Bizzle, who got out with an early game elimination, got out with just a little bit of loot, and end up in a tight spot here, but it looks like Blue and Sinks are just going to take what they got as well. A lot of disengaging going on at this exact split.
Again, it just means that much more to people. Nobody wants to take that risk, especially when a spot in the finals or Surge Week is up for grabs.
Interesting that almost every game, Kanata and Agers immediately rotating out of faulty splits towards one of these side gas stations, trying to loot up, get the rest of their resources, not wanting to go down early on, especially with how stacked and contested faulty splits actually is throughout each and every week. So having a plan B up your sleeve is something necessary for a team like Ben. 46 points for Djinn and Muzz, 26th place overall in this lobby, not overall on the leaderboard. And they have their work cut out for them. They got themselves a tower on the side, setting themselves up for Surge. It looked like a team down below was going to try to contest them, but no worries anymore. They're just going to try to disengage, live to tell the tale. So much importance on this final game.
Plenty going on all over the place. Chimp and Spade, they find themselves in a fight, which again is not unfamiliar for them. Gary, though, on the other side of the wall, they have to be careful because he can certainly pack a punch when he's firing. He's going to be looking to try and just claim some space in this one. Hold and wait on that angle. Try to find new angles to be able to take shots at them. Chimp, not the best in terms of HP either, and so just be careful. Cone now be placed above him. He almost got trapped on him. But that's not going to stop him. That's not going to make him shy away by any means. He fears nothing but the storm, and so going to be moving his way towards the safe zone again.
Yeah, I was looking there. Gary and Sinento were separated just a little bit. And now one just gets tagged up, down into the bush. Shockwave hammer from Chimp and Spade. They know timing is of the essence. And for being this far out of the zone, this far away from everybody else, eliminations like this are absolutely necessary in terms of their success. And it does look like Gary looking like he's trying to disengage, stay alive, but they're hot on his heels. They don't want to let any elimination, any points escape their grasp, especially the position they're in. They're trying to get themselves a top 5 finish on the day. And you can see Gary going up and over. Spade and Chimp can kind of hear where he's coming from, and a huge opportunity from Gary, putting down the shot, not going to be able to connect. As this one is going to be a little prolonged, and it's up to Gary. Do you disengage? Do you stay in this fight? It looks like he's going to stay, try to go a couple extra shots, trying to peek through the covers at the perfect time, and he lands a massive blow onto Spade. The wall isn't his. That would have been a cheeky opportunity for him to take advantage of.
If that wall was his, I can't imagine they'd still be in the game right now. Unfortunately, it was not, and so Gary still going to have to try and make a 2v1 work. They've had some time to heal, though, and so it just becomes even more difficult for him.
Chimp and Spade, you can see them. Men misting up. They have a shockwave hammer. If push comes to shove to try to get themselves out. Gary in this situation probably is like, hey, I need my duo. I need him to have the best chance in this game. It just looked like some sort of disengage is going to go on for now. Probably trying to look for scraps, some sort of heals. Maybe stay in the storm, get the reboot card later on in the game. Only time will tell.
Hey, but look, for the last time, we have Jenny to fill us in with some updates. Jenny, what's going on?
Thanks, Levin. So we have Sinks and Blue here. They're kind of pulling a little strategy camping, trying to get an elimination on the enemy that is going through that loop path. And we see that it took them here a second to do so, but they did end up getting that elimination. Hopefully it'll be enough to take care of Surge for the rest of the game.
You always love to see players make them plays. You hate to be on the receiving end of it, though. When you're on the receiving end, it's infuriating, to say the least. But nevertheless, still an effective strategy. We'll see whether or not that carries them through this game.
What a beautiful find from Chimp. Extra splashes on the ground. You can see him trying to peek where that last solo player would possibly be left behind, as Macwood and Threats always finding themselves some sort of tower in the sky game after game. You said it yourself, one of the teams that consistently finds themselves on high ground. You can see what they do once they solidify themselves in this position. Just terrorize the lobby all around. 600 above the damage threshold, making sure it's not going to be a worry from the start of the game all the way to the finish. I was going to say a little bit of a north zone, but that's a lot of bit of a north zone.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, you talking about that south zone we gave you a couple games ago? Well, how about this one?
Hey, look. Finishing up the day up north. That will certainly play into the hands of some of the teams who will be looking to have big games around this area.
Man, such a magnificent find in that last game on Amiro and Edgy. That was the moment. They were down on Surge. didn't necessarily have the best resources in terms of heals. They spotted them out the corner of their eye, building some cones, and it really led to their success in the rest of that game, trying to hold on to a high placement, especially with how they performed in that last week, tying, getting second place due to eliminations, and probably trying to take note of that. Hey, if we ever tie again, we want to make sure we're on the higher end. We get more eliminations, so that way we win the tiebreaker.
But the way they're playing, there may not be no tiebreaker, right? Because they have been on a roll. A decent lead as well. A team that has been closing leads today is Pump and Trashy. Their 5th victory out in the finals, most of any team across all regions. So not just in the East, not just EU, West, OCE, Asia, the lot of them. The lot of them.
That is impressive. And it just goes to show that they're really one of the threats in almost every lobby that they're in. Is Rapid and serves, almost looking like he's on the wrong side of that one, but still makes magic happen. Finding the elimination, dunking on him from above is Kanata and Agers, backside of zone. One of the farthest journeys to go before they get themselves toward the center, but still continuously looking towards the backside. They know somebody's there, they just don't know exactly where, but Agers gonna be the first one to spot him out. Kanata follows suit, puts that pressure on. That's the lone Gary, who probably went back for the reboot card, trying to figure out what's the strategy here? What am I going to do? How am I going to get my friend back into the game? Ooh. We catch him on his heel, not letting any opportunity escape them. Sinks in blue. They got that early game damage, early game elimination. For them, they were the ones that disengaged, changed their drop spot to have, or potentially have more success in our final game of the day.
Stacky and Phaser. Gonna be a team to watch out for as we move on throughout. Player fight. Kid Crazy. Cheeky little slide across to where they want to get to, and Player fight maybe being a bit overzealous there in his attempt to get ahead using that shockwave hammer. And I'm surprised Joji and Rokane didn't pounce on that opportunity, because he was literally down to 5 HP. But again, that just shows you they were much more focused on making sure they get to zone, not allowing themselves to get tunnel vision on that. As easy as it may have seemed in the moment.
Not looking good for Playify and Crazy. They're down on Surge. Not very many heals to work with. Playify really living on a prayer. Very little HP, 50 shields, trying to still be proactive and find the shots necessary. 43 below the damage threshold. The disaster strikes, the pressure from above. And if you didn't think things can get worse, Crazy shields no more. Finding a couple of minis to work with along with Playify. And they desperately need some sort of a refresh, some sort of miracle find in terms of loot. Otherwise, we might see them heading back to the lobby sooner than they would hope. As Chimp trying to rotate, get himself on the edge of zone. He lost Spade across the way. So all the pressure is just on him as a solo in trying to survive. Luckily for him, he does have that shockwave hammer, but in comes Acorn, in comes Cold. And just to think things couldn't get worse, one of the most dangerous teams, the ones that are ramping up the aggression as the day goes on, lands right next to you.
That shouldn't scare him too much if he can just not make any sudden movement, not do anything too crazy. Of course, when it comes time to move, these guys have shockwave hammers, and so maybe they'll be more focused on getting to zone than they are on who is currently around them.
Oof, Bryce is down. Gotta wonder if Chubbs is still alive. Reciprocal and Revise got taken out. Kanata and Agers going box to box versus Demonics and Nick. Kanata getting dropped down low, 70 HP. Chili Chug Splash being used. He's trying to splash himself back up. This is important for him to try to survive here in this situation. But the pressure is still there from Demonics and Nick. They don't want to let this elimination go easy, but Peekaboo, I see you. A huge turn from Kanata, turning the script around. And now it's up to Agers. Kanata gets dropped. He's trying to make miracles happen, but the pressure from other players in the lobby is turning this one into a difficult situation to try to survive. Dropping Kanata in, splashing, making sure Kanata has more time to work with, but throws him outside of the box by accident. Down goes Kanata. At least Agers only has to worry about himself now.
Agers has a very tough task on his hands, and one that may be too much for him. You can see the pressure being applied. Oh, dearie me. eventually he will fall at the hands of Nyx and Nick. And they just made things so difficult, absolutely relentless in their approach there. But they now may be on the receiving end of some relentless pressure as he's trying to move on in, and Nick can't quite handle it. He's gonna need Nyx to pull up something huge. You can see just dropping everything of value to his teammate and saying, hey, look, I ain't gonna make it, my friend. You gotta clutch up for us.
It's a lot of confidence. It's a lot of confidence in Demonics, but that's the type of trusting duo that they are, realizing, hey, when push comes to shove, I can trust my teammate to have a big game. 64 points. And every single point matters here at this stage in the game for a lot of these duos. Acorn and Cold just above Yamzo and Rise, right next to Trashy and Pump, DJ and Muzz, everybody getting stacked close together. And for Yamzo and Rise, this is a huge opportunity for them to overtake first.
A very big opportunity, right? If they can do it is the question. A team who, again, throughout the qualifying weeks, weren't quite able to show us the best of their levels, even though coming into the season, they look so impressive. But finally today, putting on one of their better performances. And like you said, a big opportunity in this last game to completely rise towards the top.
These teams are taking that damage to Surge. Macwood and Threats sitting comfortably inside their boxes, 569 above. Very little to worry about. So close to zone. They're just gathering the information, trying to figure out what is going to be the rotate. Probably something as simple as a shockwave hammer. One hop and you're there. As Walker's Avert celebrating up into this point.
In a game where everybody is intense, you know what I mean? Everyone's breathing a bit heavier. These guys are just chilling. Big chilling, in fact.
That mental reset.
A mental reset indeed, and that's what you're going to need as we're going to head into one of the more intense end games. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get hectic. Acorn and Cole, they want to avoid that, though. They want to create space for themselves, keep things calm.
Being proactive, gathering information is going to be crucial. Where this next zone pulls could be disastrous for a lot of the teams. The different elevations here on the north side of the mountains. Having some sort of plan underneath your sleeve is going to be important as Aiden and Hound feeling the pressure of Walker's Avert. Probably some other players as well, as Hound just getting tagged up through the builds, trying to survive. Him and Aiden get separated, unable to hold each other's covers, and that's where everybody realizes, hey, I might not get this elimination, but that's one less team to deal with. As Cam and Jiggly right there next by Walker's Avert, paying close attention to every team that crosses their path. They don't want to get caught off guard like they had in games before.
That's a Macwood. Moving on in, we've seen them in the past 3 games or so look to try play for height. Already though, in this stage of the game, not with the most materials by any means, and so even if they do want to play that way, it's going to be very hard. In the case of Rise and Yamzo though, they're looking so good, maxed out in that department. And so this is setting up to be a game where they can completely just dominate the low ground and really just shine in that aspect. And maybe even play height if they want to. Nevertheless, they have the options.
Have plenty of time to work with. See them going up, a layer or two, trying to stagger themselves back, catch anybody off guard. For Macwood and Threats, they don't have the comfortability of the Shockwave Hammer, but game after game, they've still been making it work without it. So they're going to be no stranger to this opportunity as Aviv and Ducky are close by. They're trying to drop them into their box, at least get some loot to work with, and that's going to be a huge find for Macwood and Threats. Even if they didn't get that elimination, they get topped up on their materials. As Walkers loses Vert along the way, he has plenty of materials to work with, and you can see him trying to wait for that Shockwave Hammer to recharge. That way he can reuse it.
Walkers is looking strong, but Stacky and Phaso sitting up on height are looking stronger, trying to connect, make sure everything looks good, and applying pressure to anybody that they pose, that they see poses a threat to them. In that case, it's Clarity and Casca down below.
Can't feel too confident if you have high ground. 7th moving zone, Shockwave Hammers that we've seen today alone makes everybody come crashing down at a moment's notice as the Oxy and Swirl feeling that pain, get dropped down one layer lower, trying to use that duo Shockwave, getting them both to the front side. In comes Walkers, having to change layers. He doesn't want to end up on the inside of somebody else's box at the wrong moment. staying ahead is going to be the name of the game for someone like Walker, who is a solo, as Threats and Mac would finally make their play for the high ground, trying to chop these players down and immediately go for the build fight for it. Fazo takes a huge shot from Threats. Macwood is there nearby, but Threats gets chopped down low. He's on the hunt, he's on the chase, but instead he takes what he got, and now he's going to try to get height elsewhere.
Yeah, they weren't checking their blind spots, and so Threats and Macwood look to capitalize. Unfortunately, though, for them, they weren't able to take it, and so Fazo still has some hope up here above. But with how little materials he has, you've got to think they're going to let it go. They're going to try to find something else. And with players even looking to take it, that's Clarity in the backside now. And Fazo falls, Stacky following behind. Casca is the one to take both of them out. This now might be their game.
They rise to the top, high in the mountains, but in comes Cold, in comes Acorn. Doing a little bit of a drive-by there with the shockwave to make sure that everybody feels the pain, and that's going to be the interesting thing as they continue on. Yamzo and Rise give it up. They're trying to go around the zone, taking some damage to go to the front side of the rest of the players as Cooper's there close by. Caskers has high ground by himself. He's trying to go ahead and defend it against Macwood, who's trying to chop him down. A huge shot to let him know that he's there and he's paying attention, trying to let the piece control to go over, but he gets overtaken by the shockwave hammer. Everything comes crashing down yet again, and Threats finds a way to chase him down.
Threats getting his own back, and now climbing up to where exactly he wants to be, and he has Macwood by his side. Acorn and Cold moving towards the front. They're currently second height. They might need to watch out because Threats and Macwood, they're not playing around up there. They're going to look to pressure anybody who stands in their way. Aiden down below, though, looking to cause manic. Yomzo with a big shot there. An easy one, the easiest one he'll get all game, but he's looking for more. The zone pulling across this hill, and now that's his sign to try and claim, build boxes, create space, and take players out.
Almost everybody is a duo left alive in the game, but I might have spoke too soon as Cooper and Seek get taken down. There's only one duo left. Hound is trying to do it. Now he's going to be the second one who enters the game, loses Aiden across the way. That was Acorn and Cold. Strike while the iron's hot. Yamzo and Rise are close by, but he's just trying to stagger himself. Peekaboo! They take another elimination, 286 points, rising to the top of the leaderboard at the perfect time, just like Acorn and Cold, trying to contest for that high ground at the perfect moment.
Acorn and Cold, they keep it moving. They keep it going. Threats has been relegated down to low. And he's using that hammer now to maybe fight back up, and that's exactly what he'll do. He can't hang on to anything. The aerialist isn't going to stop him. It's going to force him down, and that's going to be his demise. Rise and Yomzo, though, in a 2v2 situation now to win the game. Who's it going to be, Acorn and Cold versus Yomzo and Rise?
I wouldn't think of a better way to end the NA East Finals than with these two superstar teams trying to overtake another. You see Acorn holding on to the high ground, putting the relentless pressure down, trying to get them to expend as much of the mats, as much of the resources as possible, just like it's taking candy from a baby, but two different med miss on Yamzo. At a moment's notice, he gets shockwave hammer to the outside of zone and try to play heal off.
That's his win condition. And as they get forced and pushed down below, that might just be what the play is. For Cold and Acorn, they're going to have to hit a big shot or two, especially with how low Acorn is. Cold is really going to have to step up and play at his best. Acorn being used as bait. Rise now, looking to try and build his way on up with that hammer, push his way on in, and they're going to take him out. But do they know where Yomzo is? Do they know what he has? I don't think so. They now have a med miss of their own. Yomzo now looking to maybe rush back in as he knows that they have the chance to heal. And so he's just going to use the remainder of this med mist. It's running low. He has to get a big shot, and that's what he'll do. He'll take down Acorn, and he'll get the finish as well. And there's a player behind him, but he doesn't realize it. Cold will take him out. Acorn and Cold in the final game of the day, the final game of the qualifiers, finally showing us what exactly they can do.
That is one way to end Game 6 of Week 3 Finals. Two superstar teams, and then Yamzo, even though he didn't come out on top, you give him an A++ for the effort and thinking outside of the box to try to take down Acorn and Cold.
I love what I've just seen from both of those two teams. Like you said, coming into this season, right? Coming into the major, these were the two teams that people looked at and went, they are the teams to be in NA East. Cold and Acorn were in spectacular form. Yomzo and Rise, Yomzo in particular as an individual was looking like the best player, not just even in this region, but maybe even in the world. And finally here in the last game, they're showcasing that exactly. Cold though, coming in clutch. I talked about how with how low Acorn was in HP, it was going to be up to Cold to hit some big shots, and that's exactly what he did.
And then you add on to the fact, Cold had a med miss there. He was already using it. He could have easily tried to make the decision to stagger himself in zone, and he would have lost it to a Yamzo. So Cold, once again, proving why he is one of the best players NA East has to offer.
Coming in clutch as always. What a spectacular 6 games it's been. The qualifiers as a whole have been magnificent, Jacob. There's nobody who I'd rather casted it with than you. I've been so impressed by this region for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed. Yet again, 3 straight weeks of non-stop action. But we had a storyline to follow on the day. Who's going to grand finals? Who's going to Surge Week? And who's popping a fresh bag of popcorn and watching it all with us? We have 3 of the greatest analysts to break it all down and let us know who earned their shot.
Thank you so much to Jacob and Levin. Just an amazing set of 6 games. Thank you to them for casting them. Oh, my goodness. NA East, y'all brought the heat today. My gosh, as we turn our attention to these standings. Okay, so a couple things to just remind you, in case you're just tuning in, you've missed out. This is the last opportunity for these duos to do well and either skip Surge Week, go right to grand finals, or they're going to Surge Week. Iamzo, Rise, after that game, that crazy game, they find themselves in that #1 spot.
Back on the low ground, we see Yamzo and Rise back-to-back games. I love to see it. Again, I mentioned it last game, coming into the end game, really no eliminations. Finding one right there, actually, just so incredible. They have to be so efficient with their materials throughout the entirety of the mid-game. Every single rotation, everything to get to these end games, find almost no refreshes, and still have enough mats to be alive and in a healthy position to get 2nd place.
It was such a slick split up as well from Yamzo and Rise. Yamzo choosing to play a little bit further back, waiting to see if he could find a nice opportunity to strike, but have to appreciate the shot calling there from Acorn and Cold as well, because Cold, I think that was intentional. He was definitely baiting out Acorn. Acorn knew, I don't really have anything to sustain myself. I'm just going to wait for the call-out action, and I think it really came to fruition for them.
Yeah, 100%. I love the fact that Levin kind of pointed out there, these are the 2 teams that everybody was looking at coming into the season, right? Maybe they were kind of slacking off during the weeks, not giving everybody what they really have in store. And then this last game, they were like, all right, guys, we'll give them a showing now.
Yeah, I mean, it helps them, right? Moving up 9 placements, breaking in to that top 5, absolutely huge. We get to watch these final few moments back from Cold's perspective.
Yeah, but that's the moment right there. If you guys didn't catch that, Rise actually drops the med miss. That Cold is able to stay in zone right here with, and then just like his name mentions, Taco, he is Cold. Instantly realized that as soon as that player passes him, goes for Acorn, he's got to get there fast because that Cypher is going to come in.
And I'm sure they feel fantastic because with their POI, Slappy Shores, they're not going to have to worry about Seek and Cooper now because they managed to win it out and force Seek and Cooper to have to actually compete in Surge Week if they want an opportunity to contest Acorn and Cold later on.
Another duo that had to perform well, who did not perform well last week and had to make a stamp this week, is in your 2nd place. Threats and Macwood. Because of this performance, not only have they just secured a spot in grand finals, but they get to skip Surge Week. This was what they needed, and they showed up huge.
I'm excited to see some hype personality that's going to be in the grand finals, right? Because right now, NA were like, you know, who's going to be on hype this game? And if Macwood and Threats are alive in the end game, they're pretty much always going for first moving. And we saw that pretty much every single game today, except for this last game, right, where they actually paid the mid ground. They got a couple refreshes and then took it later on, which actually led them to that 3rd place.
And I think it's their experience as a duo with them being such storied players from this region. They knew Week 1, not exactly ideal for us. Week 2, I mean, they didn't even get to participate. So here in Week 3, it was all or nothing, and they definitely turned up.
And that's what we've kind of been talking about all day, right? Is these duos that have that pressure. And for this duo, they showed up when it matters, right? But now they have to turn attention to grand finals. How much harder is it going to be at that time?
The preparation begins right now, right? And that's the thing about also auto-qualifying the grand finals. Now you have 2 weeks of preparation, right? And you kind of take a week off, look at some of these teams, VOD review some of the 40 that are already through, and then watch another week of competition for the remaining 10. Watch their VODs in Surge Week and see kind of how they're playing and see if you can kind of adjust to any of their strategies.
Of course, but I mean, we're talking about power duos all day long, and I think that it's hard not to bring back Iamzo into the discussion because Iamzo and Rise, they looked awesome throughout today.
That's right. And guess what? We are actually going to get to hear from Iamzo himself, because here he is standing by. First off, Iamzo, congratulations. A massive #1 to end the day. Just raw thoughts. How are you feeling after that?
Feeling pretty good. The first half of the tournament wasn't really how I wanted to play it, but I'm glad we secured the last game to win the tournament.
Yeah, I love that. So what was it, Iamzo, for you and Rise? Today was that day. Today you guys just decided, hey, let's just go and place first. What happened? What led to that?
The first 2 weeks we've been contested, and we know our potential uncon, and we just executed everything we've been practicing.
Yeah, very, very good. And I also noticed in that last game, and also game number 5, low ground seemed like it was pretty much the focus for you guys. Is that what we can kind of expect you guys to play when it comes to grand finals?
You'll have to watch grand finals to see what we play.
Of course, keep those strategies secret. I respect that.
That's fair enough. But I mean, you're talking about the first half of today, not exactly going your guys' way. What do you think the switch up was that actually made the secondary half go so well?
I mean, honestly, we just like played FNCS, just play it, and then we realized last game everyone died in the top 5 and realized we could win it, and we wanted to win it, so we won it.
Yeah, I love to see it. What's you and Rise's chemistry looking like right now, right? Because for you guys, things are just clicking, man. You guys are on another level. So what led you to kind of become this incredibly cohesive duo?
I mean, we work with our coach BloodX really well, and we just always want to be the best and want to win everything. And I just feel like we click and Vaudeville a lot.
Valid discussion.
I know in past seasons you've been very, very confident. How confident are you guys going into grand finals?
If we're uncontested, I definitely see us taking it home.
There you go. Well, Iamzo, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time. And once again, congratulations. A massive week for you and Rise. We'll see you in grand finals, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. Iamzo is calculated. He doesn't say much.
Tried.
He speaks with his gameplay.
I tried to get it out of him.
You tried.
I tried. I was like, you know, are you going to be playing low ground? Nah, we'll keep it secret.
Hey, I mean, actions speak louder than words after all.
I mean, we saw it in EU, right? Queasy kind of said the same thing. Look, we have some strategies, but we want to save those for grand finals. That's when you'll get a little glimpse of it. So I get it. They want to save it. But when is that all going down? Let's take a look at our broadcast schedule. So remember, tomorrow we're back with EU, which is amazing. But for you NA East fans, next week, Surge Week. This means a Victory Royale will move you and your duo straight to grand finals. Everyone else playing for that top 5. The following week, grand finals. Acts of Champions, a first place massive prize pool, and of course an auto qualify to the global championship happening later this year. My goodness, it is great to be here with you guys. Final thoughts on the day?
Do we have to stop? Does it have to end?
Let's run it back. Everybody take positions. We run it back.
All right,
Yep, let's go. Let's go.
I'm good. I'm good to go again. I'm good to keep going.
2 Surge weeks?
Yeah,
Let's do Surge
3
week.
finals.
Fortnite Surge. I don't even know, but I'm just happy because if this was indicative of anything that we're going to see either Surge Week or the actual finals, I am ready. I talked about popcorn. Well, give me a double dose.
Yeah, not to mention, like, listen, as we're going through some of these weeks, we haven't even had the best lobby possible. Yeah, that's coming in the grand finals. And like Jay mentioned, those Surge Week, that reboot round style games every single time. Can't wait to see how those unfold.
Look, we asked for these duos to try and deliver here today in week number 3, and I think we got exactly what we were looking for. And I just can't wait to see how the ones that made it to grand finals fare, and as well as the Surge Week opportunities.
That's right, Fortnite fam. That is all we have for you today here in NA East. Remember, EU, we're back tomorrow for action there. Until then, don't forget, Surge Week will be back. Some new faces joining us as well. As always, keep yourself safe, and we'll see you on that battle bus. Beep, beep, beep.